Welcome, everyone, to the Sporting Chance podcast. I'm Aaron Kincaid.
And I'm Casey Everett.
And this podcast is brought to you by North Mountain Goshawks. Holla at your boy, Seth Roy, for all of your parent, a.k.a. chamber-raised goshawks. And he might even have an imprint for you if you ask nicely. Check him out on northmountaingoshawks.com.
And also, this podcast is brought to you by Midnight Falconry Supplies, makers of the tightest rated equipment on the market. You can reach Richard Moats, the owner, on Instagram, Facebook, or at his website at www.midnightfalconrysupplies.com.
And also, Ashley Clark, makers and creators of fine falconry furniture. Use the code SportingChance10 for 10% off your order. Now let's get into the show. Welcome, everyone, to the number 2 hunting podcast in Ireland, The Sporting Chance. I'm Aaron Kincaid.
And I'm Casey Everett.
And shortly we will be joined by the legendary Phil Eliya. But first, we want to talk some shop here. Get the juices flowing. We are literally currently the number 2 hunting podcast in Ireland. That's absolutely insane. Crazy.
It's absolutely crazy. I can't believe it. It's when I was looking at it and I saw that Meat Eater was under us in Ireland, I could not believe that. That was insane.
And if Meat Eater is under us, just imagine where Falconry Chronicles and Fat Bird Ugly Dog is, man. They're probably like, gosh, who even knows?
They're banished to the shadow realm.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
So thank you to all of our Irish listeners. We appreciate the support.
Yes, seriously. And I'm part Irish, so I especially appreciate the support.
The last name Kincaid is Scottish, but I've never done a DNA test to find out.
Well, Scottish is completely, if you say Scottish and Ireland are similar, they get very irritated.
Yeah, they're very different, but we're from the same island, right? I don't know my geography very well.
All I know is Braveheart and Conor McGregor. Those are the 2 points of reference.
Mm-hmm. Let me pull up the British Isles here real quick. All right. Nope, we are not from. My apologies. So you have the mainland, which I would just call it the mainland as an American. You see England, Wales, and Scotland. And then you have Ireland on what appears to be an island off the coast of it, a large island. So we probably just lost all our Irish listeners. So it's been nice knowing you guys. It's been nice knowing you guys.
Fascinating.
So listen, there's something that I wanted to talk about immediately, which I think is pretty funny.
Go ahead.
2 things, actually. So I've been running the dogs a couple times a week, especially the new dogs, trying to get them some experience. And dogs born during the summer, hunting dogs born during the summer is like the worst possible time for a dog to be born.
A hunting dog, yeah. I agree.
Yeah, because they're too young to really get started in the season. So the falconry season for me is like mid-October to March 1st. So they're too young to really get started there during the season. And then season's over. And you at that point you're kind of tired of, going out and beating brush. And so it takes a lot of effort to get a summer puppy going, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Ginger was 8 weeks old. I think she was born in January. Got her from Teddy like sometime in February. And then by the fall, like September, October, November, she was really getting into it.
Yeah, that's perfect time.
It was perfect.
They're ready to hunt as soon as the season starts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've been running my dogs as much as I can. The puppies, I have 2 dogs that didn't get to hunt much last season because of the age, because of when they were born. And we've been going to this one spot that's kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't quite call it industrial, but it's owned by some development companies. And on one of these spots is a retention pond.
Yeah.
And it has a really slick rubber liner in it, right?
Yeah, I know where this is going.
Do you really?
Well, no, I have a couple thoughts on where it could go.
So me, my daughter, who's 4, my wife, who's old as dirt, and two dachshund puppies and a lurcher puppy. We go out to the spot because it's pretty friendly for little kids and young dogs. So all 3 of those dogs end up slipping and falling into this retention pond.
Oh my God.
All right, so I pull them out by the I have the GPS collars on them, so I grab them by the antenna and pull them out. And then when the third one actually falls in, my wife goes over there to get her out, and she slips into this thing. She like slow-mo slips. I'm standing there about 15 feet away watching her in slow motion, just slowly sliding in.
That's great.
And, yeah. So then I go over there to help her out. And what do you think happens?
You go in.
I go in too. I slip in too. So me and her are standing up to our chests in this little retention pond.
Ooh.
That's just full of duckweed and algae. It's just like covered with it. And I know good and well that this thing is probably a death trap for all types of wildlife too. You know, if it's slippery for us and the dogs, you can imagine rabbits, raccoons, possums, whatever. They probably slip in there and can't get out and die. So it's probably just like a cesspool of, rotten animals, and
Ew.
it's nasty. It was super hot too. Felt like bathwater. Get in
It's
there.
disgusting. What was your daughter doing when you were in there?
She was about to freak out.
Yeah, she's getting scared.
And I reached in my pocket immediately and threw my phone onto the shore.
Pulls out a boomerang, like a bat launcher.
So,
Grappling
I throw my
hook.
phone. My wife's got some little like a fanny pack type of thing, so I grab that from her and throw it. Little did I know her phone was in her pocket the whole time. It wasn't in the little fanny pack like I thought it would be. So we're trying to get out, and it's like a straight up struggle to get out of there. Like we're just like every time we try and move, we slip even more and more. So I wanted to move as little as possible. On one corner, there's like a bunch of phragmites, as you guys say. There's a bunch of phragmites, but it's kind of far away, and I really wasn't excited about swimming around in there. So I just kind of crept up very slowly and grabbed some grass that was on the edge and just like slowly inched my hand up through this grass until I had enough of a hold on it to where I could pull myself up. And then I grabbed my wife while I'm still holding onto the grass. I grab her and pull her up to it and get her to grab grass while she's holding on to me. And then I just like push her butt up onto it. And then she pulls me up when she's up there. But I was laughing the whole time, but it could have been pretty bad.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be sketchy if it was deep and it just kept it kept going down to the bottom.
Yeah.
You couldn't get a foothold.
During the winter or something where you're by yourself.
Dude, that's a great point.
So you would talk about a falconry fuck up. That was one right there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that could be bad. That's a fun story.
There's homeless people out there too. So for all we know, there's some dead homeless people on the bottom of that. Who knows? Dude, it was super sketch though.
I was going to make a bunch of jokes.
And the whole time we were yelling at my daughter, like, because she was getting closer and closer. We're like, get away. You can imagine the 4-year-old slipping in there too and having to deal with that. I'm sure I could have just launched her out of there.
So how high did the liner go from like the water?
Quite a ways. I'm
picturing like, I'm
gonna say
20 feet up.
No, it's not that bad. It's probably like 4 feet of a pretty steep slope that goes down to the water of just slick liner.
Next time, dude, you pull out your knife or like your game shears and do like what's like those fake movies where like you're sliding down a
I'm
mountain.
just like,
yeah,
just stab it in, and then what I need is 2, so
You
I could
need
like
2.
stab a knife. Yeah, there were a million ways to get out after the fact. We were thinking about it, and we were like, well, I should have just grabbed the dog leashes and thrown them, thrown you a dog leash and pulled you in, or
yeah.
pulled you up that way. Or I should have just been more careful and like laid on my stomach to pull her up. But I didn't think in a million years I was going to slide in there. That was absolutely crazy.
That is crazy. And the fact that you were mentioning the winter, that could be because I'm by myself all the time, and like,
it's something to
you
think
got
about.
15 minutes, man, and you're
dude,
hypothermia. You're done, man. Trying to get out of there.
People die like that,
Yeah, that's scary.
And then when we get out, a rabbit flushes and jumps in and just disappears
in the water.
In the water, it's
No
like it
way.
dove to the bottom. It didn't even like. I've seen rabbits swim across water. This rabbit like jumps in the water and is gone. Like I don't even see it again. It looks like it dove into the water and never came up.
That's incredible. That goes. We got to add that to the list of cool things that rabbits do. I also got a couple messages on social media from some newer falconers that thought that episode we did about finding habitat was pretty helpful to them because they didn't really know where to start, and it was kind of nice to hear us like banter about it. And I know a lot of people didn't really find much interest in it, but that's okay. But it helped a couple people out, and they messaged me about it. So
that's all that matters.
Yes, if it helps just one person, that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. So then another thing I wanted to discuss. So, trapped this red tail recently, and it was a big one. That's the only reason that I even bothered with it. And when I trapped it, it was really ratty looking, like had really just rough looking feathers. So I took it home and I dusted it for mites, and I put in a hawk box for 12 hours. Then I pulled it out the next day, and of course it's still really ratty looking. And I put a hood on it and I spray it down with water and, with a misting bottle, and I try and smooth its feathers out, and nothing's really working. They're still just really ratty looking, and they don't feel like sticky or anything like that. They just look really ratty. And then I bought this feather conditioning spray that they sell for parrots. So it's kind of like supposed to moisturize their feathers. So I sprayed it down with that. Didn't really do anything. And then I soaked its tail in a big like pitcher of water.
Yeah.
That didn't do anything either. And the bulk of the problem is the tail. I've shared the picture and I'll get to that. But the bulk of the problem is the tail. And today I ordered a misting system to put on the weathering yard that I have her tethered in. So I turned the misting system on today to like mist her for like 4 hours. She was soaked to the bone. I turned it off and I'm just kind of leaving her alone, hoping she's going to preen. But I've never seen her preen ever. And one thing that I thought of was her uropygial gland. I think I'm saying that right. It's, for those of you who may not know, birds have a gland at the base of their tail, and it secretes an oil that they rub into their feathers. So I thought there could be a problem with that. And I've seen pictures of birds that have impacted glands. So I checked that out, and it doesn't appear to be a problem. So I don't know. It's kind of a mystery. So the first thing I did was, there's a well-known raptor vet on Facebook, that one of those people that, you have 50 mutual friends with.
Right. Yeah.
I just sent her a quick message and I was like, hey, have you ever heard anything like this? Any tips? She just read it and ghosted me.
What a sweetheart.
What a sweetheart.
She's like, make an appointment.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get that to some degree, but if somebody, I don't know, it's a quick, harmless little question. If somebody's got a mental health question for me, I'll gladly answer it for them.
Then you send them a bill.
So just a quick little thing, I'll talk to him about it. Not a big deal, but yeah, she left me on red. That pissed me off. So I quickly unfriended her.
How long did you give her to respond? Like an hour?
Like a day or two. She had me on
she's
red.
busy.
Yeah. One time she had me on red. I asked her a question. Someone was talking to me about respiratory issues with goshawks. And I asked her a question about, I think, the nebulizer treatment. And she didn't say anything to me. She just read it. And then later on, I was annoyed. So I just said, thanks. Like,
oh my God.
Like 2 days later, I sent another message, thanks. And then she replied and said something like, aspergillosis is extremely rare, that most of the time it's something else. So I don't know.
You want to shout this person out?
I really don't. She knows who she is, and you guys can probably anyone on Facebook probably knows who she is, and she's banned from listening to the Sporting Chants. So if you're out there, turn it off right now. You're not welcome.
We're just kidding. We're just joking.
What, do you got a mouse in your pocket right now? Because I'm not. Anyway, and then I do this, and I know exactly what I'm going to get. But I go to good old Strictly Red Tail Hawks.
Yeah,
on Facebook, which has got to be one of the goofiest falconry pages on Facebook.
Why is that? I mean, there's nonsense in every group.
It's got to be. The only nonsense I see on like goshawk pages is mostly like people in God knows what country, that'll have a goshawk they bought at the market, and they're like, I feed egg, it not eat. Help.
Yeah, it's always on a tile floor.
Oh yeah,
like in a dark room with like shit on the wall.
Oh yeah.
It's always the same thing. I posted a video of my Siberian chasing a red tail around the other day, and I made a joke like even the red tail, here's a video proof that even red tails know that the goshawk is superior, like making a joke.
All that,
every single comment was people saying, "That's not a red tail, bro. That's a buzzard." Or like some other guy was like, "Cool, two goshawks in the field. I wonder where you are." And then everybody was saying that's not. I don't think that's a red tail. Like trying to I'm like, bro, I was standing right there watching it fly away. Like it harasses all my birds every year in the same field. Like what the heck?
Dude, I saw one of the comments that said that's a goshawk, not a red tail, and I'd be like, okay. I'd be fucking thrilled if that was a goshawk in the field.
Yeah, me too.
Like, could you imagine being out hunting and a wild goshawk comes in?
Dude, that's happened to a couple guys. I think Mike Radford up in Alaska. That's happened to him. It happens to him a lot. And he says sometimes they join in on the hunt, especially the passage birds.
Wow.
The young ones. Yeah, the brown birds. He said they'll join in on the hunt and stuff.
I'd let it join in permanently with a BC.
Yeah.
So I get a bunch of idiots on there saying like West Nile. I'm like, it's not West Nile. The feathers, the shaft's not messed up. It's just the actual, like the barbs or whatever you want to call them. And then I get people saying, they're like, oh, it's been in a trap or something like that. And then the best ones though are these two jackoffs who are like, I would have released it. I'm like, my question was not, should I have kept it or not? Thanks for chiming in, but my question was, have you ever seen this? And do you have any idea of what could cause it? Do you have any idea how to fix it? Because everyone, first of all, I talked to my network. As you know, I've talked to you, I talked to Harrison, I talked to Phil and Paul, I've talked to my sponsor, talked to all these people, and nobody's had anything, try as they might, it hasn't been, nobody's given me anything that would fix it, and nobody really knows.
I was just going to say, if Harrison couldn't figure it out, then you might as well just let the bird go.
Yeah. I think you're right. But the only reason I asked Harrison is because it was in the group chat.
Right.
Otherwise, I would not have asked Harrison. But so the interesting thing about this, though, is, well, first of all, as far as letting it go, it's like, it's not doing me any harm messing with this bird right now. We're still a month away from hunting season. still 100 degrees outside, I can mess around with this bird and see what happens with it. So worst case scenario, I can let it go. But somebody said you're going to have to imp the feathers, which I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to that. But
you posted the picture, right? It looks like, so the audience knows if it's the same picture I'm thinking of, it looks like if you took your fingers and started at the base of your bird's tail and pinched your fingers and then slid your fingers all the way up to the base of the shaft and pushed
against the grain
and then just left it. Every feather looks like that.
Yeah, it's just a mess. Every
looks
feather
terrible
looks like that. Yeah. So here's the interesting thing about it. That spot, one of its siblings, I think 2 siblings are there still. One of its siblings has the same thing going on.
Wow.
And then I'd completely forgotten about this, but that really shitty apprentice I had a few years ago
with the greasy ponytail.
Yeah. The bird we trapped him came from that spot, and it had the same thing going on.
It's genetic then.
No, I don't think it's genetic. I really don't. The parents that are there look fine. So maybe they're throwing young that have it.
It's a recessive gene.
I don't know. Maybe every single bird that fledges out of there dies. Who knows? Because they're at a real disadvantage having feathers like that.
Yeah, it's definitely not doing them any favors. That's for sure.
Now, they might be able to crash brush for rabbits and rats, but I don't know. They're not going to be the best, most graceful bird flying around.
Are the wing feathers, the primaries and secondaries like that?
No, they're not.
Oh, okay. Well, you could probably get away with that.
So what I'm thinking is that if you know what the plant is, there's a plant called Lespedeza that we have down here, and it's an invasive plant. Do you know that one?
No.
Lesbian disease. Lespedeza.
No.
Lespedeza is, so it's an invasive plant, and it's like insanely thick up top. Like it's like it's like a 3-foot like thick carpet, and then underneath are stalks. So it's like really, I think that's part of the reason why this spot has got so many rabbits, because I trapped it at a spot that I like to hunt. Is because the Lespedeza is so thick, but underneath is stalks, and the rabbits could just run freely under there, but nothing could penetrate that, or it's unlikely that something could penetrate it. I'm wondering if those young birds have like been crashing into that Lespedeza and like fighting their way back up through it.
Yeah, but they're stuck though. They don't go down when you push them down the shafts, like the barbs.
When I wet them down, it will look okay for a while. I think part of the issue too is she's not really preening.
Well, it takes them a while to calm down. You only got her 2 weeks ago?
Something like that. Yeah, I think it was.
I don't remember seeing a red tail preen, for a few months.
Really?
Well, I mean, maybe I just didn't notice. I don't know.
I just don't pay much attention to that.
I mean, I always make a mental note when I see the bird rouse and preen or put a foot up. I always like mark it down in my brain like as progress.
There's a little goshawk thing where it's
a little leg hanging,
sticks its leg out like it's it's reaching out to fist bump you or something.
Yeah, I love when they do that.
So yeah, if anybody's got any thoughts or ideas about this, let me know. But this is what I'm going to do next is, so the water, when I dipped its tail in the pitcher of water, it was like room temperature water. Next thing I'm going to do is hot water, like pretty dang hot. Dip its tail in there and straighten it out, see what happens. And then after that, I'm going to try Dawn, because a rehabber told me that they think that I should just like mix some Dawn with some hot water and kind of, work it into the feathers and then spray it off. But the bird's going to be really pissed off when I do that. So I'd like to avoid that if I can. So that'll be the next to last step. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to try and hunt her, but if it seems like it's going to be a problem, I'm probably going to imp the feathers.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
I think the hot water might do the trick.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, if she's not preening, then they're just going to go back to the way it is, but she's getting to a point where she's getting pretty calm. That's another thing about this bird, man, is she is she's the most difficult red tail I've ever handled.
Yeah.
Would not be keeping her. I trapped her. She was 49 ounces, which for those of you out there who do grams, me and Casey were talking about this the other day.
It's like 1,300 grams, right? Something like that.
Is 1389. So about 1,400 grams. So it's a really big bird. And that's not unheard of, but it's not super common to find one that big.
It's a nice bird.
It's a good sized bird. And I figure she'll probably fly at because the trap weight was about 49. And so if she wasn't fat at 49. I'm thinking probably 47 ounces is going to be my target, is what I hope to fly her at, assuming I'm flying her. So that'd be 1330.
It's a big bird.
1,332 grams. So that's a good sized bird.
It's a very good sized bird.
So we'll see what happens. Anyway, so what do you have to say about our guest coming up?
He was my sponsor. He's one of the best falconers I know. Knows a lot about everything and is my go-to when I have questions about behavior and problem solving and pretty much anything falconry related, and math. He's a math teacher, so if I have any math questions, I ask him those. He's a D1 wrestler. He's got a lot of accolades. He's an all-around, well-rounded guy, and I think he's a great guest.
D1 wrestler. That's not somebody you want to mess with.
No, and I've tested it a few times. Doesn't end well. Never ends
right.
well.
Well, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Phil, welcome to the number 2 hunting podcast in Ireland, The Sporting Chance.
My brother-in-law will be very proud. He's right off the boat.
Oh, yeah?
That's right. Yeah, he is. That's right.
He probably listens.
I doubt
it. So we're joined here with Phil Eliya. Phil, why don't you tell the listeners who you are, a little bit about you?
I'm a falconer. I was Casey's former sponsor. I was a little reluctant to come on the show. After listening to a few episodes, I figured, you guys were just going to make fart jokes and talk about men's genitalia and stuff like that. So I was a little hesitant. Someone told me you guys were like the Beavis and Butthead of the falconry podcast. One's got a draw, one talks too fast,
Yeah. Perfect. Awesome.
Who said that, first of all?
I think maybe I just said it, but that's all right.
Yeah.
No, John made me say that to you guys.
Oh, makes sense now.
John Munyer, huh?
No, I'm just kidding. He did not make me say that.
They're probably just now getting Beavis and Butthead in Iowa or wherever he lives, Indiana. Hey guys, there's this really funny show that's out. It's called Beavis and Butthead. Have you ever heard of
it? Oh man! All right, so let's start from the beginning. So, how'd you get involved in falconry? Some people may know, I know, but for the listeners.
It's a little, it's a little lackluster. It's probably the joke, right? I went to a Ren fair and saw a demonstration from a New York falconer, and that was it. I was like, I turned to my brother. I'm like, my brother said, you could do that in Jersey. I said, what do you mean you could do that in Jersey? He said, you can fly a bird in Jersey. I turned to him. I'm like, I'm doing that. Just right there and then I knew I was going to do it. I think I was 17, but then I waited till just read books, whatever I can get my hands on, pre-internet days or early internet days, and just waited till after I graduated college to start. Where I was going in college at the time, West Virginia did not allow falconry at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know you went to West Virginia.
That's right. See, we got something in common, Aaron.
Y'all are kin.
We're kin.
I cracked myself up.
Where'd you go in West Virginia?
Mountaineer. Another fun fact, Teddy, my sponsor, Teddy Moritz, and her husband graduated from West Virginia University. And me and my wife graduated from West Virginia University.
Wow. It's a small world.
It sure is.
And Casey said before you were a wrestler in college.
Yes, I was a wrestler at West Virginia, and met my wife through a wrestler's wedding, and yeah, the rest is history. And just came home, graduated, met Teddy, and started falconry.
How'd you meet Teddy?
We went to a picnic, a summer picnic, typical falconry picnic in the summer. Walked up to the food table like I always do right away. Teddy approached me, her and her husband, and just started. Teddy's very good about that, and including people that are new, and she makes them feel comfortable and talks to people. It doesn't matter who you are. Some kid just walking off the street, walked up to the table, and she just introduced herself, and I said, just looking to get into falconry. I just graduated from West Virginia University, and we're looking to get started. She's like, oh, me and my husband graduated from West Virginia University. I said, oh, wow. I said, I live in Bergen County and blah, blah, blah. She lives in Bergen County. She was the only falconer in my county, and she lived like 10 minutes away from me. I said, wow, that's crazy. I said, you want to sponsor me? And she laughed and didn't say anything, but just, we just continued to talk the rest of that day. And then she eventually agreed to sponsor me. My brother saw that after she accepted that, we called her later that day and said, can you sponsor my brother too? And she agreed. So we were her first sponsors.
Wow.
She was the first apprentice. You were the first apprentices she had.
I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. We were her first apprentices.
Oh,
and she'd probably been doing it a while up to that point too, huh?
She had. Yep. She had been doing it since the 60s, technically.
Did she tell you why she sponsored you and Paul? So right off the bat, after not sponsoring people for so long?
Yeah. I mean, she just said, we did talk for hours, don't forget, throughout the day. So she just said that she could just see it in our, I don't know how to say this without sounding like, but she could see the hunger in our eyes. She could see that we were going to do it and that we were very eager to do it. And, that was a big motivating factor for her. And I guess I talked to her and so that's for me, that was it is a sponsor system. So that was me going forward. That was a big thing that I looked for in my apprentices too.
How many people have you sponsored?
2.
So Casey, and who is the other one?
James Maynard. He's a legal counsel for Napa, or at least was for a while.
Yeah. Wow. So that's something that I wish I could see more of with prospective falconers, is that hunger, that drive to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see these days, I think, with the way life is, with technology, and it just, times are different. I mean, people see everything these days, like back then you could, it takes away a little bit of the mystique and the drive, I think sometimes, they see, like the very first bird I ever saw fly other than the Ren Fair was mine. I never saw another bird fly before, so that doesn't happen anymore. It's just even to find people and get in touch with people and, do all that kind of stuff. There wasn't like videos of falconry that were easily accessible and stuff like that.
I've always said the internet has taken the mystery out of the world.
Correct. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I guess if you have it at your fingertips, it makes it less exciting. To that point, I was raised in a very strict household. We didn't have any cable. We had one family computer that was in the middle of the room, in the living room. And I don't even know, like Phil said, I don't know if I even saw hunting videos of birds until I went into the field with the first hunt was with Mike Ottinger. So it was it hits you differently without not seeing it before,
Did you know what Beavis and Butthead was when you were a kid?
That was satanic. I wasn't allowed to watch that stuff.
Now he's reliving it right now.
Yeah.
He's doing a pretty good impression. For never seeing you, you're doing a pretty good impression.
Yeah,
I'm acting it out.
He's doing a good butthead. Yeah, I encounter a lot of people who want to get into the sport. I started to apprentice to sponsor one guy, and he didn't work out. That's a long story. I think I've talked about it before. And
multiple times, yeah.
little ponytail, goshawk attacking it. And then my current apprentice, she's gung ho, she's hardcore. You know, she's the real deal. So she is what you want in an apprentice, but she's a rarity. You know, most people, you know, they just don't have it. I want to tell most people just buy a auger buzzard or buy a Lanner falcon or whatever it is, and you just want a pet bird, buy one of those.
Yeah, I hear you. I know. I mean, you like, I like, you guys were talking about, I think in one of your other episodes I was listening to, you were saying how like some people either make you beat brush for a year, or, you know, or like that. I mean, I agree with that. I don't think that's a terrible idea. I think it's a good idea, but I don't know necessarily if if the person shows that eagerness, that enthusiasm to go, you know. For example, you know, I'm sure that a lot of Falcons are like this. I'm like, you know, just call me. You know, you want to go out, call me. I'm not going to call you. You can call me anytime. I won't be upset. You know, call me anytime you want to go out. And of course, never, you know, hardly anybody ever actually calls you. So that enough, you know, tells you everything you need to know. You know, I also look for, if they do come out, I look for their reactions in the field. And, you know, maybe this is not right. This is just what I do. I mean, who knows, you know, but if you're not excited to be in the field, like I know Casey was, because I saw it when he was out in the field his first few times, and till to this day, you know, it's exciting to be out there, you know, and you know, I might not be jumping around and screaming and doing all that at, you know, 48 years old, but it's still just, I appreciate it, if not even more now, because I go out fewer and fewer times. So if that person is new to the sport and is not enjoying themselves, is not asking questions, is not having fun out in the field, is not showing enthusiasm, then, you know, why would I even bother to take my time to sponsor them? Because I don't know. I just feel like you need to have that kind of enthusiasm and that kind of drive to want to do it. Remember, Casey, we were out there in the field at the Jersey meet, and I don't want to mention names because I don't want, you know, to put anybody out there, but there was a relative newer person in the field, and I was like, that person can go hawking with me anytime. Remember that, Casey? Because like a rabbit flushed and like almost hit her, and like, you know, the enthusiasm and the excitement from that person is like, you know, that's what you want to see. You want to be having fun and seeing that kind of enthusiasm. And when, you know, the dogs flush something or the rabbits flush or something, if you don't have that kind of joy and enthusiasm when you're out there, why do it? You know,
Dude,
there are other things you could do.
I get so mad when I'm out in the field, even with other falconers, when they're just on their phone the whole time, texting.
Yeah,
especially when it's my turn to fly and I've been beating brush for you for the past hour because your bird won't fly with dogs. So I'm out there whipping brush, beating brush for you, and then it's my turn to fly, and you're on your phone.
Yeah,
and the birds pick up on that. Like, they know if people are excited, if they're bored, if they're not into it. I mean, maybe that's just me, but I feel like the birds pick up on the energy that everyone else is giving out.
Yeah, if not on the energy, just on the fact of the interaction with you, like working together and doing the routine and keeping the hunt going and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, they probably definitely pick up on that kind of stuff, you know. Like if you're just standing there not doing stuff or not focused on the hunt, you know, the bird's going to be like, you know, what are you doing? Where are the dogs? You know, why aren't we moving? Blah, blah, blah. So now the only thing I'm doing in the field on my phone is, because I don't have GPS, is just answering hate texts from my wife. That's about it usually.
Why, that you're hawking and not at home?
Yeah, doing something. I don't know. Yeah.
I'm on my phone a little too much.
So I think the kids drop something on the floor and it's my fault or something like that. Because I was in the field.
Casey, why do you find that so funny?
Because I deal yeah. I think you know why.
I'm on my phone too much with the GPS. I'm constantly looking at it. So it feels kind of bad. It's like taking me out of the actual hunt, you know?
Yeah, I always yell at Paul and Casey. I'm like, look at your bird. Stop looking at your phone. But that's probably because I'm jealous that I don't have GPS.
Which I don't know why you don't have it. You should have it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know why.
Yeah,
it's coming. It's coming eventually.
It just makes life easy having the GPS. I will say that I don't. I've been flying this bird a little bit, the new one, I only looked at my phone when she chased a turkey vulture around and then disappeared. And then I looked at my phone. I realized I left the pocket link all the way back in the truck. So then I had to pick up my son in the 80-degree weather and run all the way back to the truck, get the pocket link, put it back in my pocket, and then go find the bird and then reset. Meanwhile, the dogs are flushing the baggies around.
Yeah.
And it was just a shit show. So, but the GPS makes life easy. It really does. It's so convenient.
Yeah, I can't wait to get one.
Takes the worry out of it, that's for sure.
Yeah, no. I'm looking forward to it.
Although every now and then I've had it screw up a couple times, and that gets pretty stressful. But
well, that's the thing. That's another thing I'm a little worried about. I'm not too techie, and then it's like I'm sure I could figure it out. But I just I don't know. Just one more thing to go wrong. Technology only is great when it works, right? So
yeah, I had an issue with mine early season. It like wouldn't upload. It's like an older GPS, so like it wouldn't download the new like firmware. Like each season, when you turn the thing back on, it like wants to like download all this stuff. It wouldn't let me download it, and when I screwed the battery in, it wouldn't connect like at all for like hours. And then I would keep trying different batteries, and for some reason, I don't know if it was a coincidence, but then it started working, and then now it works like every time. It's so weird. I have no idea what happened, but I know usually I do. You open the app on your phone, turn the pocket link on, wait until the pocket link turns white on the light, and then you screw the battery in, and that's like the order of operations so that it connects properly. If you screw the battery into the GPS and then turn the pocket link on, then open the app, sometimes it takes longer to connect for some reason, I noticed. I don't know if that's true or just in my head. I don't know. No idea. Aaron, you got any direction?
run down your history of what all you've flown over the years. Because you
man,
and your
who
brother
cares?
have
Nobody
flown
cares
some
about
interesting
that stuff.
birds based
You
on
think
what I
anybody cares
understand.
about what I flew? You think? All right, fine.
Well, I don't care about the individual birds, but rumor
at some
is you
point,
flew one of those Harlan red tails.
What have I had? I've had, obviously the red tails. I had dark phase red tails, Sharpies, Coopers, Merlins, goshawks, peregrines, and I think that's it, right? I had a Gerlin for a little bit. Proposed to my wife with that bird. Kestrels, lots of kestrels. I think that's it.
You ever take game with a falcon?
Not much, very little. Well, aside from a kestrel, lots of game with a kestrel, but very little with a Merlin. And the passage, I did not get going that much. Only a few slips, and put some ducks into the ground, but that's it. Never successfully. I mean, where we are over here on the east, like it can be done for sure. There's people that do it for sure. I'm not gonna say it can't be done, but when I got to them, I was starting to get into marriage life and stuff like that, and less and less time to travel and all that kind of stuff. So, the dirt hawking is the way that I went. Plus, with the dogs and everything, the dachshunds, it's made sense for us to stick to dirt hawking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, what was your experience like with sharpshin?
Quick, fast, and bright. Not very long, unfortunately. None of them were long term. Seasons, and they didn't get multiple years out of any of them because of all different reasons, injuries, and everything that you can imagine. The normal stuff, getting chased, flying into something, that kind of stuff.
That's my understanding with them, is that the experience is pretty fleeting.
Yeah, I think someone told me one time that what's it saying? The fuse burns fast and bright, something like that with them.
I just heard that Sharpies will invent ways of killing themselves.
Yeah. It's just like, it's just very fragile things, but they're awesome, and I definitely want to try passage at some point.
So all the ones you flew were imprints.
I took a passage when it was the first bird I ever took outside from my red tail my general year, and that didn't last long, unfortunately. I didn't know what I was doing, and blah, blah, blah. And so other than that, the other ones were imprints from Kentucky and Indiana.
That's what I'm talking about. Tell us a story when you drove out there with Paul. It's a great story. Or were you with Paul or Brian?
No, I was with another Jersey Falconer.
Oh, okay.
Mike Matowski down in in South
Yes.
Cape May. You know, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
We drove out there overnight and just, barely any sleep. Get out there, and they had we had our license and everything. We had missed the boat with those guys that go out there in Indiana, so we couldn't catch up with them. We were just like couldn't get. They go into a place they have like no cell service, so if you miss it, you miss it. So I said, well, I talked to Joe Catahenry. I said, we don't mind climbing ourselves. We'll climb. So he's like, yeah, well, I'll give you a location. You can go check it out. So we go there, and I'm almost no sleep, and we get up to the tree, and he's like, I was all excited to climb. I climbed it as I got to the top. 225 pounds. The trees swaying back and forth. It got to, I don't know how thick it was up there, but the tree started moving back and forth while I was up there, and I grabbed the birds and I lowered down, and I'm just like, the adrenaline starts fading. And I'm just like, as Mike was down there, I'm like, Mike, watch out. And I just turn and throw up all my gas station ho-hos and snowballs that I ate on the way there. And a lot of people know I have a weakness for mass-produced, cream-filled pastries from gas stations. So that was it wasn't a pretty picture. It doesn't make for good climbing energy either. So
No.
yeah, it wasn't pretty. And then I just climbed back down. But I don't know if it was just the adrenaline, the lack of it being in shape, or what, or just the tree swaying back and forth, whatever. But anyway, yeah. So it was pretty cool though. Those strawberries were awesome.
Yeah,
so worth it.
Yeah, it's a dream bird of mine. Sounds worth it regardless.
Oh yeah.
So now
it was 50. I measured it because I measured with the rope. It was 56 feet. And they're like, oh, that was nothing. We sent you to an easy one. I'm like, an easy one. I was like, they're the ones these guys climb, Mark and all those guys out there. It's crazy. It's crazy how they even find them is unbelievable. I've talked to Joe, I don't know how many times, to explain to me how to find these Sharpies, and I just can't get it in my head. But that's a big bucket list for me. So I'm going to find one in Jersey.
Yeah, they nest at the tippy top, right?
Yeah, it's hard to see them from the ground. You can't even see the nest from the ground. Crazy.
How big is the nest in comparison to like a goshawk? Obviously smaller, obviously, but I'm just like tiny, or like, what are we talking?
So the whole nest is probably only, like 18 to 24 inches wide. It seems like, like from the outer branches.
Okay, that's pretty decent.
It sounds like pretty big, but in the tiny, the top of a little pine tree all the way up, that's not that big,
Right.
The goshawks will tend to nest in the first crotch or in the lower crotch, right? Especially in deciduous trees, they nest in that first crotch. So usually, that's either not as high or easily visible, but the Sharpies are up in the canopy usually, so that makes it like nearly impossible to see. I mean, we sat when we were with Tony Englert down in Kentucky, our first ones, we sat in the woods. We climbed 4 or 5 nests. I don't remember exactly. At least 3 nests we climbed. I don't remember how many we climbed before we found it, because there was nests everywhere and the birds were flying around, but we couldn't figure out which nest they were in until we finally just laid on the ground and just stared up at the canopy, and it was getting dark, and she finally returned to the nest. The hen finally returned to the nest, and we saw him. We're like, our friend of ours, Tony Duffy, was with us. He's like, there it is right there. And then we finally found it. We climbed it and hiked out at dark.
Nice.
Cooper's Hawk nest real high up as well, I believe, right? I mean,
not in my experience, but could be wrong. I don't know. They tend to go to the first crotch in hardwoods, and then the ones I've seen haven't been that high up.
The ones down here are always in a pine, and seems like they're always in the top of a pine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. The ones I have seen haven't been that high up.
Now, when you're entering a Sharpie, is it different than entering a goshawk, or is it just similar, but it's just miniature and faster?
Yeah. So when I did it, it was like, I didn't remember having any trouble whatsoever. Like, they just chased every little bird they saw. So I don't remember it being difficult. Like the goshawks were definitely more difficult for me, but could be more challenging finding slips. It could be the birds I got could be, user error. I don't know. But for me, it was a lot easier to enter those Sharpies and coops than it was my goshawks.
That I've heard that's why I asked, because I heard the same thing, that like there's very little prep work that you have to really do. They just kind of start branching, and then all of a sudden they're like chasing after little birds, and you just keep building off of that.
Correct. That was my experience. Yep.
Did you exactly. Is it, I mean, I don't know the answer. Do you hack Sharpies?
I never did. I mean, they're too fragile and too valuable for us to just put out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, if I could hack everything based off of this last goshawk, I would do it. I mean, I think the benefit is so good to the birds. It just makes it so much easier, in my opinion. But I know that that's not the case for everybody. I know it's a big risk too. Like if I had access to Sharpies every year, or coops every year, even, I would definitely hack it and go that route, because it's worth it. I think this last bird that I got was so easy and so successful because of the hack. It was like 40 days or something like that.
That's a long time. And you and Paul, you hacked your birds together, right?
Correct. Yeah, the two females hacked them together. Yep. Hey, Mac.
Jeez, that's so cool. So they got to be playing with each other, chasing each other around, obviously, exercising. So the benefits that you're talking about, I mean, I know the benefits. People listening that are like pro hacking, but there are people that are not really into hacking and are kind of wary of it, and they don't really see the point. Could you just kind of go through some of the pros of hacking?
So we've tame hacked the two best goshawks that I had were tame hacked. And is that coincidence or not? I don't know. The one was a tier, so I found him on the 3 weeks in, the day of the third week, he was on a wild pigeon when I found him at night. And so I called the hack, and he was a great bird. He was an amazing bird. He would sit on the kills with his, wings folded, no mantling, no screaming, blah, blah, blah. He was just a well-behaved bird. And then that was years ago. And then this last one, she's not as well behaved, but she's been so successful with the least amount of effort on my part. So I attribute that to her personality and to the hack.
And also the fact that you've flown however many number of goshawks.
Maybe. You could say that.
Because I was busting my ass last year. I was out there every day putting slips in front of that North American. And I'm like, how's your bird doing? You're like, oh, she's just in the mew, just playing some games in the yard. I'm like, you're not going to the field? You're like, I don't think I really need to. And I'm out there dripping in sweat, putting slips, screaming at the sky, and then we go to the Jersey meet, and I'm thinking my bird's gonna friggin', be the star of the show. And Phil pulls his bird out, and like, I mean, how many times did you go to the field before the season even, like?
I mean, I don't remember the number of kills. It did not see a lot of slips just because, we've talked about this how many times, Casey? We just talk about here, and it's not like I don't want to get out in the field. You know this. I got 5 kids and I'm not allowed out of the house. That's it. My wife doesn't let me out. Plain and simple. You want to know the truth? That's the truth. Not allowed out of the house. Don't let her hear this, Casey.
I don't know if I could stop her. That's hilarious.
But so I kept her going, kept her in shape, and like I said before about the hack, she was very well fit. I could see when she started chasing, because the birds I didn't hack, when I get going, they have to get that sight picture, they have to get that Layman talks to me about, and like build up that confidence also, and not to mention the conditioning is the big key. That is, I think, the biggest key that people don't understand. Those birds really need to be fit, and what they're doing out there in the wild in the hack, you can't replicate that with slips, without a million slips, and without just flying and and all that. So you have to make up for that kind of conditioning that a hack bird or a wild bird would get. Is like, I mean, that's That's got to be. It's crazy, So this bird was fast right off the bat, and she caught a high percentage of the slips she got. She just didn't get that many. But
Right.
yeah, no, that was great. She caught, like, I don't know how many dogs were there. How many dachshunds were out there that day? 13.
It was like 13
14?
dogs on the ground and like 20 plus people in the
20
field.
plus people, and she made some nice grabs in the light snow. It was beautiful. I was very happy that day for sure.
Yeah, people were extremely impressed with that bird's performance, and I was just, it's just like we got to, so that me and you talk about this all the time, but like we got to the same place. It just, we went two different routes to get there. It's like it's the exact same result, and it just with a lot less effort on your part. It's like with what Lehman talks about, and you can get the bird fit by hunting tidbits just in the yard, getting the bird to look out. And it's kind of like you're like,
I don't want to say it's like less. I know what you're saying. It's less effort and stuff like that. But there's you got to meet the bird's needs, right? As a good falconer, you got to meet the bird's needs. And I think you guys were talking about this in one of your episodes, in between your fart jokes and stuff. You were talking about like, you're talking about like how reading the bird. I think you said it was Aaron. What did you say? Was it it factor or something? Was that you? I'm thinking of someone else.
If it was profound, it was me.
But just being able to read the bird, like I think knowing what the bird needs and what it does at certain times is a big part of it. Understanding what that bird needs to make it to the next step or to keep it going or stuff like that. So, that's the stuff that I think is hard to teach falconers. And I think that's a skill that, that some people have and don't have naturally. Like with Casey, it was very easy. It was very obvious when I was sponsoring him that he got that. He understood the birds. He could read them very easily. Everything I told him, he'd almost finish my sentence. And, he's a newbie, little kid, 13, 14, 15 years old, but he was asking all the right questions. And not only that, implementing it and understanding what I was saying at a young age, like it was obvious, So he was, he was a natural in a lot of ways. So
keep going.
Aaron,
keep going.
Aaron just got off the podcast. He's gone. He just hung up.
Yeah,
he did.
No, Aaron has very bad service right now. He did
that on purpose. He didn't want to hear it. He left on purpose. Where'd he go? You didn't want to hear that, Aaron? What's the matter? You don't like what I was saying about Casey?
Aaron's internet is very choppy for some reason. I don't know what's going on.
Anytime I compliment you, he starts hanging up. What's going on?
Is that what's going on?
Go ahead.
Now he pretends like he can't hear me. See that?
Technical difficulties, people.
Yeah. That's what I do when my wife calls me.
As he looks over his shoulder.
Make sure that door's closed.
Oh God. Yeah. I was talking about that with who was I talking about? I was talking about that with someone, and it's like, it's interesting. Some people just can like read. You can always learn, but some people can just read like what the bird's doing, and some people just can't read what the bird. Not even birds. It's like dogs too. Like some people are just like, they get it. They're like animal people or whatever. It's not like,
absolutely. Yeah.
It's not like it's not like somebody's better than somebody else. It's just some people, like I had 5,000 million pets as a kid. So I was constantly playing with animals. I loved animals. So somebody who never really had experience with animals and then all of a sudden gets a giant hawk, as an apprentice, they may not like know what they're looking at. It may not compute, but then eventually they'll learn, and just like anything else. So I don't know.
Yeah, it takes a while sometimes. I mean, Aaron, you had all those animals, so it's probably, I'm sure you learned something. I mean, I know you're from West Virginia, but you probably learned something from all those years.
I'm like Ellie Mae Clampett from Beverly Hillbillies.
You're too young to know that show.
Aaron just turned 40 last week.
Oh, is he? All right.
Yeah. He's a grown man over here.
Oh, okay.
I'm an adult.
It's so funny. It's like when you're a kid and you look at people that are 40 and then like, or in their 30s, even for me. And I'm like thinking to myself at 30, I'm like, I am a freaking child. Like, I still feel like a kid. Like it just, it's ridiculous.
If it wasn't for my daughter, I would definitely feel like a complete child, but I still feel like a kid.
Yeah. No, that's nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that.
I'm telling you, on the subject of kids, I'm telling you right now, raising, not that we're going to harp on goshawks the whole episode, but Phil is very proficient with goshawks. And me and Phil have talked about this, that when you have a child, even a wife to some degree, it's very similar to raising an Ias. It really is.
There are definitely some parallels, for sure.
There's huge parallels. It's like you want to like expose them to things, shape the behavior. It's like
here's something that I noticed that's like that with my child, my first children especially, but even in general, like, and I think Aaron, you could probably understand this part too. I'll talk slow, but so what? when you're observing an animal, and a bird like that doesn't. Of course, you guys all know that the birds are like they don't give you any very little inclination if something's wrong, right? So we're constantly observing our birds. We're constantly looking over their health, their mannerisms, anything out of the ordinary. It's going to be a red flag for you, right? So we're gonna like that little thing of observing constantly your hawks. Like that translated to my kids. If any little thing was off, and my wife's she was a great mom. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to take it anywhere, but like I would spot some things sometimes before her because it's like I'm constantly just watching for something that's off,
Right.
And I think that part that translates, and she would hate if I said that, but I think that part from just constantly watching our hawks and looking for something that was off helped me as a parent to see if something was off with my kids, and sometimes it was.
Very interesting. Yeah.
That makes sense. I don't know if I made it. I don't know if I explained that right, but
yeah, that even made sense to me. That's
good.
Awesome. So I think you've told this story. Unless Aaron, do you have the direction you want to go? Go ahead. I've been talking a lot.
Well, I don't know if you even said it, but my internet's acting crazy right now. So I get these huge, like everybody's audio gets all blurry and crazy. Well, there goes Phil. Speaking of crazy, but
Phil just disappeared.
So
Phil is no longer with us.
So if some of this is redundant, or if I'm not responding to what people are saying, that's why. Let's see.
Yeah, no, me just use error.
Did that come through, Casey? What I said?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay. Yeah. So if some of this is redundant, but my question was for Phil. And I may not even be able to hear this the way my internet's going. But my question is, if you weren't able to get out and hunt with the goshawk, Phil, as much as you wanted, what were you doing in place of that?
So, and I'm going to not do Steve Lehman justice here, but because I don't want to make it sound like I'm doing exactly what he says, because I'm not, just because I don't have that patience and skill anymore. But like, basically it's filling in those gaps that you need. When your bird needs to be flown, needs to be given a bag, it needs to have release some energy, needs to come down in weight, needs to like Casey was saying, after you have so many and you screw up so many, you start to finally figure some things out. And I did, just know what the bird needs when it needs it. So if I knew that bird needed to get out and burn some energy and I couldn't get out into the field, or we did go out in the field and didn't produce anything, I would bring it home and do some games with it. And it could be just simply a lure machine. It could be something tying a piece of meat to my child and tell him to run as fast as he can, when my wife's not around, and stuff like that, and just keep doing that, putting a weighted credence on the bird and just getting it to chase and do things like that and burn off a lot of steam, and also be a fitness, exercise too for it. So that kept and what Lehman would say is that not only does it substitute for the hunting and the mental aspect of the bird, it also becomes, to the point, if you do it correctly, it becomes more difficult for the bird to catch do the games at home. You can make them so difficult that it's more challenging for the bird to do those games at home than to go out and just catch a rabbit. And so it would rather go out and catch a rabbit and be more likely to chase than to go home and have to be put through that, that workout, so to speak.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, listen, all I could say is that it's worked, right? So that's all I could say, you know.
Yeah.
And I know it's not the way Casey wants to do it. It's not the way I did my first birds, but again, you know, with the family and kids and not being able to get out and losing a lot of spots locally here, which is, you know, why Casey moved away from here. So part of the reason, but
The main
you know,
reason.
yeah. So, you know, it's tough right now. So, but you know, it could still have success and still have a bird and still continue falconry, and that's what I'm doing. So the other option is just quitting and giving up, and I'm not ready to do that yet.
No, definitely not. I don't think I could picture either of you or Paul ever quitting. But yeah, the games are super interesting, and I don't enjoy doing the games. It just doesn't like get me excited. I'd rather go in the field and beat brush like a monkey and just manually, like what you're doing is like passive investing, and I'm like manually like going to work every day to like make money. It's like the same thing.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. But here's what I will say that is the most rewarding part, right? So as falconers, as animal trainers, as people that love animals, we want to communicate with our animals, right?
Yes.
This is what Layman was explained to me. And this is when I finally understood this, he was, you know, when I finally did this with that white bird that you had, Casey.
Yeah.
That Aaron has now, right? Not you, Aaron, different Aaron, but
different Aaron.
Yeah. So so that white bird, right? Working with that bird for however many months I worked with it, you know, we want to communicate with our birds, and playing those games, I was able to communicate with that bird in ways that I never communicated with other goshawks, you know, and I don't see if I can explain this right. So understanding what that bird was trying to tell me through its behavior and me understanding it and having that kind of back and forth with it was very incredibly rewarding, because it was like, oh, I know what you're trying to say and what you're telling me. Like I understood what that bird was thinking. And, you know, you see this with all types of trainers, it's easy to see it with our dogs, but, you know, people with horses and other types of animals and stuff like that, you know, when you get that good bond going, that communication going, that part was really cool. And it made me learn, and I learned a lot. Even though I wasn't out there killing a lot, I learned a lot about goshawks and their thinking and their body language, and that taught me a lot from that bird. So that's the one thing I will say that is a huge benefit of me doing that with that bird, you know?
Yeah, and that bird caught a rabbit. Beautiful flight at the end, like right at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And your puppy was just getting started, flushed the rabbit right in the snow. Bird smoked it like 10 feet away from your feet, right? It was so close.
Yeah, that one rabbit was a long time in the making, but, you know, I'm sure it would have got a lot more if we, you know, if it didn't go to the breeder. But
yeah,
that was good. I learned a lot through that. So even though I wasn't out there, you could still learn a lot, is what I'm getting at, you know, and obviously, you know, Layman, obviously, right? So, you know, all the stuff that he's learned with the birds and understanding the mentality of it and understanding all that's through the games he played with them. So you're talking to your bird when you're doing that and you're communicating. So there is a learning aspect to it. We all want to get out there and hunt and kill and have fun. I get that. But sometimes when you take a step back and do those kind of things, you're still learning things that you can't learn or are difficult to learn out in the field sometimes.
Right. Well said. Aaron's having technical difficulties, so we're just going to move on.
See? Anytime I say something, he just.
So a big part of your falconry, and this is not nowadays, I feel, and I mean, maybe not nowadays, but it's probably always been around. A big part of your falconry and what gets you excited is trapping a lot, right?
Yeah, it took me a few years to realize that, like, you know, for me, the taking a wild animal and getting it to cooperate with you is, like, I think the most interesting, rewarding, most excited I get about falconry. And, you know, if we just had captive bred birds, I probably would still be into falconry, but it would lose a lot for me, for sure. You know, like for me, the wild aspect of it, manning that bird down, even though I don't do the long manning that I did when I first started, even though I don't spend a lot of time, just the idea of getting that bird to cooperate with you, you know, is just, I think to me, the most, I don't know, just the coolest aspect of it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But like we've talked about many times, some of us are not as fortunate to be able to trap passage goshawks or have access to to nest and stuff. So really, if we want to fly a goshawk, the only way to really do it is to go out and buy one.
I know. And that's why, like, people really, I know people don't want to pay those prices and all that stuff. But, like, when I started falconry, just anybody that have a goshawk was slim to none, because they had to go out and get it, or, there was very, very few breeding at the time. So, it's great that these breeders are doing such an amazing job and do, like, the access to goshawks because of these breeders is like, it's amazing, and people shouldn't, like, should just give a little credit to what these breeders are doing, or else they wouldn't have access to these goshawks, and I think that's hard to understand in this day and age where everything's just accessible for all of us,
Yeah.
But there's old people like us that remember when you couldn't get a goshawk unless you found it or trapped it. So that's and I think that's a huge, huge factor why so many people do fly goshawks, because they are accessible now, whereas you just couldn't even get them back then. Like, I still remember the first time I laid eyes on a goshawk. It was like burned in my memory, just because I just read about them for years and years and years, and they just like didn't exist. They were like this unicorn that you would never see,
Yeah. They still are like a unicorn, at least to me.
No, they are, and they should be treated that way. But it's hard when you see so many around. Some people might take it for granted.
Yeah,
I think I might have gotten my issue fixed.
It was your face.
It was my ugly face.
That's why it's blacked out.
Yeah,
that wasn't me. That was your co-host. I didn't say that, Aaron. That was your co-host who said that.
You're overloading the bandwidth with the video as well, and if you cut the video, then it saves you on data needs.
So many technical difficulties in this episode.
Yeah, this is the cursed episode. But
it is.
There were a couple things when I picked up a couple little tidbits along the way. And what you were saying earlier about the goshawks, and when you're not able to get out and be successful in the field, that you would come home and do weighted exercises or something like that.
Yeah, and it could be anything, but yes.
Kind of goes back to what me and Casey have discussed a few times when it was brought up that goshawks may be one of the more difficult hawks to fly in America.
You're not going to bait me into this argument, but
so those are not red tail or Harris hawk problems. We'll put it that way.
Hey, listen, when I had to enter my first, not my first, but like when I had a Harris hawk and I had to enter it, right? It was still challenging. It was still difficult. That bird still, I didn't know what I was doing, and you still have to enter a Harris hawk. I think, obviously, the thing why people think they're easy is you still have to get out there and enter it. But a lot of people have access to rabbits that, more than we do, and the behavior is not always. But there's plenty of Harris hawks that do have behavior issues. But their behavior is not always as much a factor as it is for the goshawks. So the fact that Harris hawks are turnkey birds is not really true. They do require work, and you could get difficult ones. And and if you're in a spot where you're low on game, like in the Northeast and certain areas in the Northeast, not all areas, but certain areas in the Northeast where there's lack of rabbits or lack of other types of game, it's still a challenge to start a Harris hawk. So yeah, I get what you're saying, but
I do agree with you on that. My first Harris hawk was just an unmade new Harris hawk. I didn't have an older Harris hawk to teach it things. So it was just starting from scratch, trying to fly her after rabbits and squirrels. And she was just trying to figure it all out. And that was a very hard bird to enter. Probably the hardest bird I've ever had to enter, to be honest.
Right. So there you go. Exactly. And and a lot of people give up or don't understand how to enter them, or don't have a lot of game for them. And so, yeah, they're not always the easy bird. If you're out west or a certain place where they have tons of rabbits, you can put 20 rabbits in front of it in a day. Then yeah, it's probably not going to be the hardest bird for you. But when you're in the Northeast and you put up 20 rabbits a season, then it might be a little more challenging.
Right.
Eventually, once they're made, though, there's nothing easier than them once they figure it out.
I love Harris hawks. There, I said it.
No, you don't. You're just trying not to be controversial. You don't.
Don't get me in trouble with my sponsor. Don't get me in trouble with my sponsor.
If you love them so much, why don't you get one? Hang up the goshawks and start flying the Harris Hawks.
They're too difficult for me to fly.
Oh, okay, that's it. They're too hard. Understood.
No,
I think goshawks are easier for you.
I think eventually, in a couple of years, Phil's going to have all 5 of his kids with 5 Harris Hawks and himself,
right.
and they're going to
That'd
just
be
fly
fun.
this monstrous cast and just destroy every squirrel in the neighborhood.
That would be a lot of fun.
That would be fun. That's my plan with my son.
They'll be the coolest kids in school, man. If they come down the block with five black hawks on their fist and scare everybody away.
Yeah. I used to get made fun of by the kids in my town for wanting to be a falconer, and when I became a falconer, they used to bully me.
Did they?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, they used to mock me all the time.
Here we go. Here's the victim card. Here we go.
They call me bird boy and freak and throw rocks at me. All kinds of stuff.
That was probably because you were turning every conversation into ones about birds.
They're like, hey, what's up, man? I'm like, dude, I just love red-tailed hawks. Wouldn't you like to have one?
Did you guys know that red-tailed hawks are actually buzzards?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. That didn't make you the coolest kid in school?
No, it definitely didn't. I wasn't even in school. I was the coolest kid in my own school because I was
Maybe
homeschooled.
that was part of the problem.
That was definitely part of the problem.
Yeah.
Dude, they would come up to me in the park and they'd start like asking me math equations and stuff. Be like, dude, what's 12? What's this? And I would be like, oh, I didn't learn that yet. And then I'd run away. It was brutal. But then Phil ended up being my math tutor.
Yeah, maybe that's how he became your math tutor. See, it was good for you. See, stop playing the victim. It made you me your sponsor.
Yeah, exactly. Phil was an excellent math tutor, and I got pretty good at math, good enough to pass my master plumber's exam, which is really the only test that matters. And now I'm rich. No, I'm just kidding.
Now he knows how to lay pipe.
Now I can lay pipe straight, mathematically even. So stupid. All right, Phil, I want to talk. Aaron, do you have any direction you want to go, or I wanted to talk about where Phil hunts, mostly because it's a little unique.
That sounds interesting.
Okay. So a lot of people, they live, a lot of falconers in the United States, but we all live all over the place and that are listening. A lot of people in Ireland listening, apparently. So they have a very interesting, we have all different challenges that we have, but when I was in
Ireland, quick memory that I love about being in Ireland, we went to visit my brother-in-law's family out in Ireland, and me and Paul, we saw, it was in the fall, and we saw sparrowhawks migrating overhead real close.
Oh my God.
That was one of the coolest things. I remember. I'll just have that burned in my memory. That was so cool.
That is cool.
Side note.
That just got me pumped.
That was so cool.
Yeah, but basically it's like the equivalent of a Cooper's hawk, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, somewhere between a Sharpie and a Cooper's hawk size-wise.
And behavioral, is it slightly different? They're slightly calmer than a Cooper's hawk, I think. A little easier to work with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say his name wrong, but I'm reading that book, and he's got a good video out on it. Derry, I think is how you pronounce his name. You know what I'm talking about, Aaron? I know you're into the books. I know Casey doesn't read. I taught him math, but I couldn't teach him how to read.
I'm not sure which book you're referring to. The only one I can think of is Magravado, but that's older.
No,
there wouldn't be any videos.
It's not a Hawk for the Bush. Anyway, whatever. He rewrote a book on an old book on a class. I can't think of it. Anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter. But anyway, he's got a good video on YouTube. I just came across it. He's training a sparrowhawk. It's pretty cool. But
interesting.
Yeah.
Send me the video. I want to watch it now.
Yeah, well.
But I wanted to get into like the kind of the challenges that you and Paul and other people that live in, the eastern part of the United States, and specifically in New Jersey, it's like real dense. So just talk us through that. So like, what do your average slips look like and where are you going?
So I mean, basically, I'll explain some of the like maybe myths that we maybe busted based, or maybe they're not missed, but like just things that we thought that couldn't happen, right? So, for example, when we started flying our goshawks in these tight spaces, urban, semi-urban areas. Remember, these are North Americans, not Finnish birds, which are much calmer. You see videos of the Finnish birds in parks and like in Europe and stuff on these camps where they're nesting in parks. And it's like crazy. They're just like, they're just not the same bird, But anyway, so these North Americans, we hunted them in our red tail spots. We were in tight cover. We were always under the impression that you had to hunt a goshawk in a field out in open cover and blah, 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 which we didn't have access to. We hunted behind Home Depots and all this kind of stuff and semi-urban stuff that people, would kind of make fun of us in the beginning for. But the other option was not to go hawking, right? So we just did with what we had. So we hunted wherever we could, and these birds would adapt and do it. And these are, goshawks, these are red tails, these are kestrels, these are passage goshawks. Hunting in, behind highways and all this stuff. And, you've seen it a bunch of times, Casey, the birds would be just passage goshawks just sitting in a tree with, thousands of cars going by, and like, and taking these ducks and slips and in very tight cover and with all these cars and people around and stuff like that. And it's not to say it's not without its challenges. And, it's hard to follow a bird if it does decide to take off on you, and, because you lose sight of it in a second because of all the houses and buildings and everything like that. So it is tough, and there's definitely challenges and dangers. But, the other option was not to go hawking. So, we just did what we had to do. So you can do it. And I know there's plenty of people out there that do urban hawking, but, what surprised me is being able to do it with a passage goshawk. That really shocked me. So that was surprising. The imprints, it kind of makes sense, but the passages would adapt too. So
very interesting.
And, and you, Casey, you remember we had videos of passage goshawks, remember? Mm-hmm. In those towns, with traffic and cars and highways right next to us, like busy suburbia, and we'd see those passage migrating birds once in a while. So
where at?
Like we were in like Paramus, New Jersey. I'll never forget it, right, Casey? We saw.
You're talking about the Tiercel we saw on the pigeon.
Yeah, that Tiercel passage goshawk on a pigeon
right off of 17, sitting in the bushes, and we're going hawking or coming from hawking, and one of us is like, "There's there's a Cooper's hawk or something down there." We pull in the parking lot and we look, and we're like, "Dude!" And I had a camcorder, right? Didn't I have a camcorder?
Yeah, a camcorder. Yep.
And I zoomed in on it. I'm like, "That's not a Cooper's hawk. That's it was a goshawk sitting in Paramus, New Jersey, on a pigeon, right next to the highway, plucking it."
Yep. Yeah.
Incredible.
And we've seen one, at least one or two other ones in Paramus, and this is like right outside New York City. Blah, blah, blah. I went hawking with Picorn and, Emilio down in Liberty State Park down in Jersey City. And it was cool because, we got a passage goshawk and we didn't catch anything, but they usually catch, we call it a rabbit with a different bird, but not with my goshawk. But it was cool. We got a picture all together and we're like, New York City's in the backdrop behind us. And, it's just kind of cool to be able to still practice falconry. I mean, it's getting harder and harder these days, but we were still able to get it done in this urban, semi-urban area. So, I mean, it's not ideal, but like I said, the other option is to not do it. So,
or drive 2 hours somewhere.
Or drive 2 hours, 1 hour one way. Usually 1 hour you can get somewhere pretty good.
Yeah.
Which I know doesn't sound like a lot for a lot of people. A lot of people even out in the country drive an hour, but again, it's just hard time. Everything's, short on time these days.
Well, if you have a schedule like us, Phil, an hour after work, that's basically impossible to go fly.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I was lucky.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm to the point now where when they start construction, as long as it's not a neighborhood, I think to myself, all right, I can work with that. If they leave a strip of briars behind the warehouse, I can handle that.
Yeah. No, I've always said that a little bit of construction is actually good. It's just too much. When we started here, like 2000, I guess, 99, we started. like around here, even in my county, you know, one of the most densely populated places in the world, we still had a decent amount of spots, and you know, we can get it done relatively close to home. But that was, you know, 20 years ago now. And I think that two things, they can continue to develop every little, you know, if they see two trees together, they split it, put a house there. But also, I think the coyotes, I think that's a big problem. Coyotes and foxes is like, we just see them all the time. I mean, not as many coyotes, we don't see them, but we see scat and stuff like that. But we see foxes a lot. And I think, you know, whatever little spots are left, it's just not gaming them.
Yeah, all the predators are convening on the few spots that are there.
Yeah. Yep.
House cats too, right?
I mean, there's definitely house cats for sure, but I still think I really think it's yes, house cats definitely a problem. I think it's the coyotes and foxes that are more of a problem.
My theory is the house cats are harder on baby rabbits. But, you know, if they kill the baby rabbits, they're never going to get to adult.
Would you think that, I don't even know if this is true, but would the coyotes and foxes, or at least the coyotes, kill house cats?
Yeah, they do. They'll kill them. Yeah, they'll kill them.
Well, you know, I had a biologist one time telling me that he believed that coyotes were actually not really hard on small game populations, that coyotes, a bulk of their diet was the mesopredators like the raccoons and possums and foxes too, for sure.
I mean, listen, I don't know, but I mean, maybe if there's nothing else, I don't know. But all I know is, you know, I can't find rabbits anymore in these spots. That's all I know. I don't know. Yeah. I see coyotes and I see foxes. I remember 3 hunts last year, or no, this was a couple years ago. I went out and saw 3. I flushed 3 fox. That's like all I flushed. You know, it's like in 3 hunts.
Does Harrison know where your spots are? Because maybe that's the problem.
This is pre-Harrison Goshawk time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was on
2 things I don't tell Harrison about is my spots or any women I'm talking to.
The guy will move right in. He doesn't care.
That's probably good. I said at one point, my daughter's 4, and I was like, man, Harrison's probably got it mapped out.
He's counting down the clock.
You better edit that out. You better edit that. My kids might listen to that.
No, but a good point. I was on a podcast called the Duck Season Somewhere podcast. Excellent duck hunting podcast.
I listened to that one. I like that. I actually listened to that podcast a little bit because of your episode. Yeah. Yeah.
Aaron doesn't like the guy because he has a southern drawl, but
what are you talking about? But you're paisans. What are you talking about? That's your man.
He said that Casey said the same thing. He's like, I thought he was one of your people. And I'm like,
oh, his drawl is bigger than your drawl. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You got drawl envy.
That's yeah. I listen to him and I'm like, that guy sounds like a redneck.
That guy's from really south. I'm just fake south.
Yeah, Aaron tries to hide his accent like my wife tries to hide her Hispanic accent, which is
he's mad. That's I know, because now because he doesn't he realizes that West Virginia was part of the Union. And he's all upset about it.
I know. I'm trying to go back in time and fix that. But,
Jesus, can I get my point out? Let me get my point out.
Sorry.
I was making a point. So what he said, because he's really into duck hunting, is an understatement. He hunts all year round, and the way he gets around it is he flies clients and himself to other countries, to these multi-million-dollar operations, and hunts when other seasons are open in other countries, which is incredible. His Instagram is Ramsey Russell. He's just an incredible guy. He's got a really cool story. I think we're going to try to get him on the show too, because he's just such an interesting guy. No, he's a great guy. I really like him. But he was explaining to me, which was fascinating.
You better work on your drawl there, Aaron.
No.
Yeah, you better dig in. You better really practice.
You got to make him feel comfortable, Aaron. And he was saying that the coyotes is like the only thing that keeps the mesopredators in check. The possums, raccoons, etc. The coyotes are really the only thing that keep those numbers in check. Nothing else really kills them. So he was kind of saying that all the hunters hate the coyotes, including us. But and he's more.
I think I remember you talking about this. Okay, I get what you're saying. But I wonder if that's the case when you have like an unnatural environment like suburbia. You get what I'm saying?
He didn't make it seem that way because they're not gun hunting ducks in suburbia. But he was saying that every deer hunter and small game hunter, we hate coyotes, and we're always shooting them every chance we get, which is fine, and I'm all for it. Believe me, everyone I see, I try to shoot. But he was saying that they're really the only line of defense to keep the mesopredators in check, other than trapping and hunting them ourselves. But yeah, it was very interesting that he said that. But I mean, I'm still going to kill everyone I see. But it was.
Well, I mean, I'm all for keeping the nature as possible, like keeping the natural ecosystem as much as you can. But I don't think that's possible in our situation. With very little land for them to live, and blah blah blah, no natural predators and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of get what he's saying, I think, and I think I agree with it, but I just don't know how effective that would be in our situation because, like the deer, for example, there's no, they're not a natural ebb and flow of their population because of the lack of hunting pressure or the lack of predators or whatever, blah blah blah, that we've taken out of the ecosystem. So there's an influx, of course, of deer, and that's why you can kill as many as you want in Jersey in certain zones, and unlimited take and blah blah blah. So
does only usually,
yeah. So I mean, so I don't know if that's the case in our situation where you have one little patch of woods and a coyote moves in there, and then next year you got no rabbit. So
that
coyote, one spot, Casey, that you flushed an insane amount of rabbits when we first discovered it, and then in 2 years we can barely flush a rabbit there. And I got a picture of a coyote there that was probably, I don't know, it was so tall. I got to find that picture. That thing was so tall, it looked like a wolf, like really skinny wolf, in that same spot.
Yeah, I mean, how many rabbits does he have to kill to sustain himself?
I mean, he didn't look like he was doing so well. He was skinny, but anyway,
he killed all of our rabbits.
I guess
that's why there's nothing left.
I know, so weird.
Well, the thing with coyotes and foxes is they can supplement their diet on trash too. So
like Harris hawks.
Yeah, just like Harris hawks. I see a dumpster and they're in it.
Yeah. No, it's a super interesting conversation, and like, not to get philosophical and like all this and that, but that's like the number one comment I get is like, whenever we post anything about predator hunting, there's always somebody or multiple people that are like, just let nature run its course. Da, 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 da. And it's like, you can't live in a fake environment with cars, houses, people. I know,
it's so stupid. I agree with nature take its course. Yeah.
Maybe in Montana, in the actual nature, let it take its course.
Your road. Tear up your asphalt and let nature take its course.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a stupid argument on their end. So
don't drive your car to work and walk, and then let nature take its course.
Yeah, exactly. Or just, whatever. I'm not going to say it, but remove yourself from the equation then, if that's the case. If you care that strongly about it, it's my opinion.
Well, they forget that we're animals too.
Huh?
We're part of the whole thing too.
Yeah, I don't like that comment though. I mean,
what? That we're animals?
Yeah.
No, we're not animals. Come on, Aaron.
I mean,
come on, Aaron.
Anybody below the Mason-Dixon line, Aaron, is that what you're trying to say?
I forgot. I'm in here with a couple of hard right Christians. I shouldn't.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm a
man of faith.
True Americans. I mean, I'm a beast, Aaron, but I don't think I'm a wild beast.
We're not Southerners. We're Yankees up here. We're not. That's it. I'm going to stop.
Yeah, but if we're affecting the ecosystem, if we're having a ginormous, incredible impact on the ecosystem, then obviously there has to be some supplemental control, whatever the case may be. So I was just saying all that to say that if any listener gets into an altercation with somebody and they start using that argument, it's very easy to counteract that argument by just saying we live in a affected ecosystem, so nature has to be controlled by us in most places in the United States, unless you live in the middle of nowhere.
Unfortunately, yes. It would be awesome if it wasn't, but unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, because if we didn't, there'd be rats, coyotes, and raccoons running the show here.
Correct.
A healthy ecosystem has some predators, but not the overabundance that we see in most places these days.
Isn't it that like a healthiest ecosystem has lots of predators? Isn't that what they say or something like that? Like, right?
Well, that would make sense because then they're also if they're able to have that many predators on the landscape, then that means there's enough prey for them. So then the whole ecosystem is working out.
Right.
The predators would be an impact. Would be the I'm lost for words here, but it would be the evidence of a good ecosystem if the predators can sustain themselves off of what's on the landscape.
Right.
Did you guys ever hear the studies about when they reintroduced wolves to Yellowstone?
Oh, how they affected the rivers?
No, I mean I just heard that they allow hunting now, right?
Way.
A wolf can reroute a river.
Well, I mean they're doing so well that they're allowing hunting a take of them, right, in certain parts.
Well, yeah, but my point being is that people thought that the wolves were going to decimate the elk populations.
Right.
But it turns out one of the hardest things on the elk populations were the coyotes. And the wolves were really hard on the coyotes because the coyotes were eating the elk calves.
Oh. Okay.
So
interesting. Wow.
So the coyotes ran out the wolves ran out the coyotes, so the calves were able to, go to adulthood, and I guess the wolves are eating the old or injured elk.
Sounds like propaganda, but yeah, continue.
No, I mean it makes sense.
Yeah. You'll never convince me that some predators is not a good thing. I think wolves,
some predators is
lions,
good.
all that's cool. But then you have the issue like you have, Casey, is you have, you got bears everywhere.
Crawling. There's probably one in my dumpster in my garbage can right now as we speak, probably.
Which that's a problem. That
I get what you're saying, Aaron, but and it's a sign of a good, healthy ecosystem. But to go to the other side of the arguments, we can't live with predators, or at least we can't live with predators, or nobody wants to live with predators. So that's the other argument. It's like people complain about the Jersey Bears, but then they keep building homes in their habitat. So like, what are you going to do? Like they got to go somewhere, right? So it's like, don't kill them, but we're going to build my giant house right here in their backyard, and but nobody's going to shoot them. And we don't want them to kill our dog, but
right.
So you can't have it both ways. It's hard to have it both ways,
Some management is necessary, and when bears are getting hit by cars and in garbage cans, that's a clear biological, showing that there's too many.
Casey, remember last year? I was nose to nose with that. My dog was nose to nose with that bear. Oh my god, that was scary.
Oh, so yeah, that's right. I forgot you had a thing last year with the dog right in the
I had the
right in the den.
On the fist, and Jafar goes into the bush and just like starts barking. You could tell right away, when it's a bark, when it's a rabbit, and when it's not a rabbit. And he's barking right away, so I know it's something, not a rabbit. And I go to get him. He's only like 5 feet in front of me, and I just look down and I just see the head, and he turns a little bit. He goes, and just oh boy. I'm like, and I call the dog, and I'm grabbing. Now I got the goss on one fist and the dog in another hand, and it's a bear 3 feet from me, and like in a brush pile, and I'm like, please just I'm just gonna leave here. I'm walking back. Don't come at me. Oh man, that was scary. That was the closest I ever got to the bear. But he didn't leave us alone. But I couldn't find my other dog for a while, so I was freaking out. But I found her.
Yeah, it's not good. There's way too many bears. I mean, if they're denning, I mean, bears will den on the ground and give birth, but I don't think it's ideal for a sow to do that. And when you're seeing that,
it was a warmer spring day. Yeah.
Yeah, but when I mean, me and Paul kicked that one up, and she had a young,
that's crazy. I know.
4 week old little baby, eyes still closed, right in a ditch on the ground. Like, I don't think that's an ideal denning location for her. Like, I don't care what people say. I mean, they'll den all over the place in crazy places, but it's just the preferred den locations are already taken up by the more mature bears. So now they're either not denning. That's why in Jersey, which they were kind of smart to do, is they have the bear season. I think they open it early now because the numbers are too high. It's like in October, I think it opens now. But it used to be it would open like like December 4th, because historically all the bears would be in dens by September 1st to the 3rd. So they opened bear season on the 4th for gun, making the assumption that if there's bears still out, that's the excess of bears, and then those will be the ones that the hunters will remove. So they did that for a few years, and then it didn't really have that much of an impact. And then, so now they're opening it like in October, like earlier now, like in October for a couple days, then muzzleloader for a couple days, and they're.
Do you know how many they harvest roughly?
I think the one year I think the first year they did it, they got like 1,000, I think, out of the whole state, and then I think the second years they were taking like 500 to 800, I believe.
Okay.
And they have a cap on it, I think, too. So if they go over the quota, then they end the hunt or something. Because the one year I remember me and my brother, we took off of work to go hunt bears, and then it was like it ends on Saturday, and we're like, oh, we didn't get one. And then all of a sudden we checked like this email or something from the government, and they were like, the hunt is extended another 5 days because they didn't get enough. So they kept it open for 5 more days the next week. And then I had to go to friggin' work, of course, and didn't get one. But I think my brother got one, actually. He got one with the bow, I think. I don't know when that was. But anyway, yeah, it's a little bit of a tangent, but yeah, predator control is huge. And if we're really into nature and we're really into harvesting game and being one with nature by flying birds, it's something that has to be discussed. We're not scientists or biologists here, but we, just having an open conversation about it. So.
Yeah.
So what else, Phil? What else do you want to get into? Anything on your mind? Anything you want to touch on?
No, I mean, I know we talked about a lot of times about, I don't know if we want to do this now because we've been into this podcast a while, but I know that we've touched on like the social media aspect of things. And I know that we talked about whether we want to, have a little, not debate, but discussion about that and that kind of thing.
I think social media is a good discussion unless he has something else he wants to say, just because you're not on social media at all. You don't have anything and you're kind of against it to a degree.
Casey is Mr. Social Media. He's the social media queen. So I think that would be. So, what's your take on it, Phil? I know you and Casey have personally talked about it, but I'm curious what your take is.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. We didn't discuss what we're going to talk about today, so I don't have anything planned. But that's kind of how I live my life. I don't really plan much, but so I'll just go off the cuff a little bit. But me and Casey have talked about it a number of times. I'm not on any social media. I don't have any accounts or anything like that. So I just, I get some of the arguments that people make about it, but I just think that, maybe I'm too old school. Maybe I was brought up in the hush hush falconry type days. And I just don't see the need to promote falconry in any way. And the quote unquote correct way or so whatever, blah, 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 I think is just BS, because your correct way is different from somebody else's correct way and, and all this stuff. And so I think that when you're doing social media to some extent, depending on what you're doing, I just think it's not needed. It's not helpful for the sport, and it's not really promoting the sport in a positive way. I think there are some benefits that come from it for sure, like that Casey has participated in, but I don't think the net positive is a good thing. And I could be totally wrong. I'll say that, I could be totally wrong, but it's just not something I want to participate in.
Fair enough.
Is that part of it is because you're a teacher?
Well, that's why I don't have a regular social media. It's not part of my falconry, but that's another reason why I don't have a regular social media. Yes, that's the first thing that kids do, try to find you on social media. But that's not the only reason. I just don't think I don't think that you need to promote falconry. I really don't. I don't think that you need to, at least not to the masses, not to the open world and the whole world to see it. There's nothing good that can come of that. I know Casey's made the argument that, you teach, present falconry in a positive light and educate people what we're doing, this and that. But I don't think that the general public needs to be educated on it. I'd rather just fly under the radar. And I know that's not what a lot of people think, but that's kind of how I feel.
Well, in spite of us having a falconry podcast, but I don't think the general public is really finding this podcast. So,
I mean, I guess that's kind of yeah, exactly. Isn't that, I can't imagine that's the same thing as posting on Instagram or, other forms of media, YouTube and stuff like that.
just from my perspective, because Casey's knocked me before about my social media, is I'm not very good at it. It'll be, to paraphrase what he said, it's a video or a picture of a dachshund with a dead rat once every 2 weeks or something.
Once a month, maybe.
And I initially was really excited to share falconry with people, but the more I do it and the older I get, the less interested I am in doing that.
I mean, yeah, when I was new, this is 25 years ago, of course, I wanted to share with everybody too, right? Like tell everybody what this great thing was. But I mean, I didn't do it to the masses, but I quickly, right? You quickly don't want to have that conversation a million times over. Back then, nobody knew what it was. People know what it is now, which is, I guess you can argue that is a good thing of the social media or internet. You could say that I don't have to answer that question, explain, wait, what? What the hell do you do? A million times. But so that's kind of like, knowing people what they do and they don't get as like crazed by it because they've kind of maybe seen it before. So you can make that argument. But overall, like, if you really wanted to share what you're doing, why not just share it with your close friends? Why not just share it with the people that you truly do know? Why share, why share it with Joe Schmo that you don't know everywhere, And, or,
I'm sure or get a kick out of it. I'm sure some people get a kick out of a million people seeing their videos.
Well, I think that's there lies the thing that I always tell the Casey, like at some point deep down, there's no other way to say you're saying like, look at me, that there's some point of that you're saying, look at me, look what I'm doing, or you want a pat on the back, right? I don't care what anybody says. There's no other way around it. If you're just broadcasting to the masses, that's part of it.
Well, I wish more people posted content like Casey instead of catching rabbits in their front yard out west. You see those videos, there's like a sidewalk and 4 feet of Bermuda grass, and then a couple.
That brings up a different argument, so then when you do something like that, then it's like saying you bring up the whole, what's the word? I don't know. You bring up the whole different argument of like, okay, well, if that he's not hunting in a tough spots, and then the next guy's hunting. Okay, he's hunting in wide open, but he's got a lot of rabbit slips. Okay, then the next guy's hunting. Oh, this guy's hunting in real cover. Oh, this guy's more legit. Oh, this guy's hunting, with snowshoes on and blah blah blah. Then you get into that whole like, who's more, more hardcore, whatever argument you want to make, and it just becomes a social justice argument. And I think that's.
I would just say that it's a bad look to hunt game in places where we know. Casey said it the other week. He was contrary to my opinion. He thinks that hunting squirrels in parks is perfectly sporting, and we don't necessarily see eye to eye with that.
I get what he's saying, but like, okay, so Aaron, is it the more sporting? No, but if you had to make a goshawk and he needed a slip, you're going to go to that freaking park. 100%.
Sure.
And you're gonna go without even thinking twice of it. So that argument it's just a foolish argument. I think, like most arguments on social media, because most of us are just full of crap, and we're just gonna do whatever we need to do when we need to do it when we want to do it. So you might not, those kind of social justice warriors. It's like arguments online are just foolish, and it's part of the reason why I don't get involved in it, I think, because it's like you can always point a finger at somebody doing something different or something, less tough. What if you're hunting a dachshund with 5 dogs? Oh, that's not sporty. You should use 3 dogs, or you should only use 2 dogs, or you should only use 1 dog.
Hard to manage 5 dachshunds, though.
What's that?
I said it can be hard to manage 5 dachshunds, though.
But you get what I'm saying, though? The argument is like you can always point a finger at somebody doing something less tough, or less challenging or something. So like Casey was saying before, I think in one of the other episodes, like, we should support people's hunting endeavors to some degree always, you know. Yes, I agree. Hunting in a park is maybe not the most sporting thing, but you know what? If my bird needed to kill and it was legal to hunt there, then that's that,
Sure.
And would I post it for the world to see and brag like I got a wild kill? No. I remember like year 2 or 3, I went out and I said, I want to catch a real squirrel. And I went out into a state park and I went through 12 to 18 inches, I don't remember, like of snow for like 4 hours before I got a slip and got a squirrel. And here, 23 years later, I still remember that freaking squirrel, because it took me all day, you know what I mean? In snow, trudging in snow. So yeah, is it more tough to do that? Yes, it is. But does that make me a better falconer or whatever, more legit? I don't know. So
I think
just
my main concern about it is if you're braggadocious about catching 100 park squirrels, I think that's lame. But that's just my opinion. And
I agree.
But my point about the rabbits in people's front yards and posting on social media is it makes all of us look bad.
I mean,
Yeah.
So how do you know it's somebody's front yard? How do you know what he did, and how do you know that bird? I don't know. I mean, it's so easy to point fingers, and I think we should just all avoid pointing fingers so much because we don't know what that situation and that bird is all the time. But I think we can avoid a lot of these conflicts if we just didn't post them. So, so I don't know. I just don't think anything good comes from posting about falconry. I really don't. But who am I to say?
Mr. Instagram, what do you think? He's just been sitting there quiet.
This is biding my time.
He's heard me say this all a million times. That's why.
No, there's many benefits to posting any kind of hunting content, trapping content, falconry content on social media, and because something that's in the dark that nobody knows of or nobody's heard of is a lot easier to get rid of than something that is widely spread and widely known. That's why in Australia, in December, they're planning to outlaw bow hunting in Australia because a lot of arguments, a lot of back and forth with it, but it's not as common there for people to bow hunt. It's not as popular there. So it's easy for them to get rid of it. The gun hunting in Australia, they're not going to get rid of because so many people do it, and it's going to be a lot more of a challenge for the government and the lobbyists to get rid of it. It's going to be a lot more pushback. So my thought on it is when you put something in the open for people to see in a positive way that's not raunchy, that's not in a front yard, that's not here or there, or a rabbit squealing while it's getting dismembered or whatever. It's tasteful and educational, and people can view it and have some sort of like an investment into what exactly that person's doing. I got people that follow me just for my dachshund content, and they just think it's cool to see the dachshunds doing their natural thing, and it's an added bonus that there's a hawk involved with the hunt, and that's what brings them in. So now, if something, not that this is the best argument, but if something were to go to a vote one day to ban falconry in the United States, people I got plumbers in the supply house that I barely know coming up to me asking if I know Jones Falconry and how cool it is and how incredible that he gets to do that and how he's removing invasive species and how it's just an amazing thing that works like that. And it's been going on for thousands of years and the whole 9 yards. I think if it were to go to a vote or petition, and you got a lot of people on Instagram and they're going like they did for the bear hunt, which I talked about in a previous episode, my wife friggin' signed the bear hunt thing at community college because the lady was sitting there lying to her saying that they're shooting cubs and mothers with cubs and all these lies. And she's like, oh, I don't want to see that. And she just signed the petition, adding her signature to the list of everybody else that was lied to, that was uninformed. But if she had seen a video about how there's too many bears and how they're impacting the ecosystem, how they're affecting with other people, then maybe she'd say, no, actually, that's not true. You can't hunt you're not allowed to shoot a sow with cubs. It's against the law. And you have to let that bear walk. You're only allowed to take, bears when they're alone or whatever the case may be. So I think education is the only way to protect what we're doing. And yeah, I agree. The bad apples, people that are posting stupid stuff that's not appropriate, that stuff's going to have a negative impact. But my point, and this has always been my point, is that, the Audubon Society, the, anti-hunting groups, PETA, they all hate us regardless. So there's like, you're not going to like win any points with them by not posting something. It's not going to make any difference to them. They're still going to try to get rid of the trappers first because it's the easiest thing that they can do.
But you're not going to win any points by posting either.
I think that the benefits outweigh the risk because getting it in the open for people to see, the benefits of people seeing that, no, my bird is not starving. She's sitting calmly on my glove. She's preening. She's interacting with me. She's interacting with my dogs. She's not starving to death like the Audubon Society likes to say. We starve our birds into submission, all the bullshit that they say. They see, no, actually, I follow, Jones Falconer. I follow this guy, and his birds don't look starving to me. They look well taken care of. And he talks about their feather condition. He talks about housing them and treating them different diseases. I get to follow along with what that person is doing. What the Audubon Society is saying is a lie. That's not true. And then somebody will talk to them about it, and then they can talk to somebody else about it. And people that don't really necessarily have any interest either way, because there's propaganda going on both sides. So if propaganda is going out on one end, like the Audubon Society, who hates falconers and does everything in their power to try to make us look bad, who hosted bird of prey hunts, by the way, and had competitions who could shoot the most birds of prey. And now all of a sudden they, don't shoot with they went from shooting with guns to shooting with a camera. And now all of a sudden they're like the justice police. So the Audubon Society, they're full of shit. So when they're putting propaganda out for millions of people to see in opposition to us and making lies up about us, why can't
they're changing their name too, by the way, getting rid of John Audubon.
Yeah, because he was he shot birds of prey left and right and everything else that he wanted to look at. So they're just liars. So if there's going to be propaganda on one side and propaganda on another side, why would we hide in the shadows and let them do all the talking?
So then you want to create propaganda on your side? I don't get it.
That was the wrong word. I'm not. They're spreading lies, and we're spreading the truth about what
I just think that
really
I think the problem with any social media or any type of argument online is that nobody's there to discuss the true topics or the true problems at hand. They just want to prove that you're wrong and they're right. So I don't think that social media is the proper place to discuss those topics. Or
you're wrong. You're wrong, Phil.
I could be.
You're wrong. Because you're speaking.
Before. According to my wife, I'm wrong every day.
You're speaking to extremes. You're speaking in extremes. If you post a video that goes viral and there's 500 comments on it, there'll be maybe 5% of the comments will be like that, where somebody is just, they want to fight you and they want to argue with you. A lot of the comments are people just saying, wow, that's super interesting, or asking an actual question with a genuine interest.
Do you ever get a PETA member on there that you say, oh, wow, I used to be a PETA member, but now I totally get what you're doing, and I'm going to get rid of my PETA membership and join Casey's Valkyrie podcast?
No, that's not the point of, that's not the target person that we're trying to educate or move to our side of the aisle. The PETA member is like,
that's what you just said. Who's the point? Your people you were trying to argue against?
No. So, I'm not. No. I'm not. I have no interest in them. I'm not going. If one of them wants to chat or have a debate, I'll be more than happy to debate them. But I'm not targeting them with my post. I'm targeting the person in the middle.
Like, I don't think that you're convincing people that are not like that, don't see things your way. I don't feel like you're convincing them by posting on social media. You're not convincing them.
That's not my goal. That's not my goal.
I thought you said that was your goal.
No, my goal is to educate the people in the middle that don't care either way. When they don't have a dog in the fight, they don't care, and they're just I like taking pictures of birds. Let me do some research. I saw this kid that flies birds. Then they go on the Audubon Society because they're a member of it, and then they read a blog on the Audubon Society that falconers traditionally starve their birds into submission and abuse them. And then they could go, well, that's not true. This guy's bird is perfectly healthy. It's really strong. It's healthy. It flies. He takes really good care of it. That's not. How does that make sense? But if somebody wasn't posting that content, this person who just likes birds of prey and takes pictures of them would just immediately think that's true. falconers just starve their birds and abuse their birds to get them to do what they want, and they would just go through their life thinking that, and they wouldn't have. So that's
a pretty good point. That's a pretty good point. What do you think, Aaron, about that?
I'm going to take the bold position and say I think both of you guys are right.
Yeah, I agree. Because if people get a little excited, and I've been
Switzerland. We got Switzerland over here.
Nobody likes Switzerland, except for the mountains and the sound of music. Great music, great movie.
One of the most beautiful countries I've ever been to, by the way. But anyway,
I've never been there.
You guys both, in all sincerity, you guys both have compelling arguments, and I really and truly kind of fall in between. I know that's the Switzerland position, but
yeah.
I really don't think Casey's changing hearts and minds of the skeptical with his social media.
No one is, because they're possessed.
To his point, he wants to impact the people who haven't made up their minds yet. And
correct.
But to Phil's point, I don't think you're gonna. I don't know.
An organization like PETA, who, if you really read into what they stand for, they don't think that human beings should have any pets whatsoever. They think it's abusive. Their real motive is that if they had their way and they had a magic wand, they don't think that anybody should have a pet animal, period. Any pet whatsoever. That's what they really stand for if you read it. They don't think anyone should have a pet dog, pet cat, pet hamster. They should all be put back into nature and go back to the way it was. That's what they stand for.
Okay. So
there's no arguing with that kind of a person that believes
correct.
that.
So then you're trying to reach those people, or you're not?
No, I don't care about them. They can be psychotic and go crazy all they want. But I will say this.
That's a little hard, but okay.
No, they can go, if they're going to be psychotic and go crazy and think that somebody having a pet dog that they take really good care of is somehow evil, then there's no common ground to have with that person. They're too far gone.
Yeah. I hear you.
But this is the other point that I heard a houndsman make on a podcast is, and we don't have to get into the details of it, but I'm just going to use it as a point, and we're going to leave it at that. Look at all, gay rights in the United States. It was all this big secret thing, and nobody.
Lord.
Well, no, I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm not making a judgment call. I'm not making a judgment call one way or the other. We love the gays. The gays are the best. We love the gays.
No, stop! You're gonna piss Harrison off.
No, I know. I got many gay people in my life. I know them. I don't have any problem with them. But they were a marginalized community. They were hidden in the shadows. Everything was a secret. And the more that they got it out there, and somebody met somebody who was gay, and there's actually a really nice person. He's not some freak that's going to try to finger me. And then they slowly realize, I'm just saying. So, and then now look at it. Now the White House of the United States has a rainbow flag hanging from it on Pride Month. So putting it out in the open.
Please cut all this out. All right.
I'm just making a simple point that when something is hidden in the shadows, it's a lot easier to get rid of than something that's out in the open that a lot of people are aware of and have some sort of a vested interest.
That's the only argument that I'll agree with you with. Yes. It's nice to not people find out I'm a Falcon, or some people are like, oh, okay. When it was before 20 years ago, it was like, what? Like, what I don't even know what you're saying, So that is kind of nice. That's the only argument. But you can do that in a much simpler way, in a much less, I don't know, in a different way to educate the people. So I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I think that the bottom line, if you're open to the public and you're posting to the masses, there's some part of you that's saying, look at me, what am I doing? And if so I don't know. I get what you're saying, but you could do that in a much different way. So look at, I don't want to mention his name, but look at the guy on YouTube that has a successful falconry YouTube site, right?
There's a few of them
in Utah, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Ben, right? So he's doing a great job promoting the sport without putting all that stuff out there. So I mean, you can make an argument.
He's not really the best representation of what falconry is. It actually
in whose mind? In your mind, in your
Yeah, good point.
opinion.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I'm just saying
Casey's
that
a
So
big
that's
fan
what I'm
of New
saying. So
Jersey
like
falconry.
Casey, you put your stuff out there. I'm sure there's 1,000 people out there that are saying, he's doing that wrong. He's doing this wrong. He's doing blah, blah, blah. So, whose opinion is right is what I'm getting at. So like there's always that going to be that argument. That's what I was trying to get at before.
The bird's opinion is right.
Oh, well, let them speak then next time.
No, the bird's opinion is right. Whatever. If the bird is healthy, fit, catching game, that's all that matters.
But you can't see that from the camera. So
Yeah, of course you can.
No,
if you know what you're looking at, you can see.
Yeah, if you know what you're looking at, which
and
you're not speaking to those people.
And I also don't post any of my content for other falconers necessarily. It's not really for other falconers.
I know.
Because if I was posting content for other falconers, my page would be private and I would show everything.
You should post for other falconers, I think.
Why?
Because, why should you post to people that don't care about falconry? Like, what? I don't see
because they're gonna care about falconry. I have 67,000 people.
Nobody's going to care about falconry. That you're not convincing anybody to care about falconry that should care about falconry. I don't know.
Wow.
That's a terrible way to put it.
How do you figure
That's
that?
That's a terrible way to put it.
How do you figure that?
Aaron, how did that
out? How do you figure that?
No, what I'm saying is you're not convincing anybody that's like, if someone hates falconry, you're not sitting there convincing them that they're going to love falconry after they see.
I just told you that that's not the goal. If somebody hates falconry, they hate falconry. I can't change your mind. That's fine.
Then why are you posting?
I'm posting because I live a unique life and it's interesting to post and people enjoy following along. And I post to educate.
I think
educating the non-hunters and non-falconers and people that would possibly not know what it is and may get a chance to know what it is and then get the opportunity to engage with them and communicate with them in a positive way. So they go, actually, what the Audubon Society says is not true. That's a lie. I witnessed it with my own eyes. The birds are completely fine and healthy and safe and well taken care of.
That's a good point.
And it's regulated. So the Audubon Society, so that's the whole point.
If you could do it in a way that you didn't, just blow it out there to the masses, then I could agree with that.
I just post on my page and whoever sees it, sees it. Some videos get 1,000 views. Some videos get 1.5 million views. I have no control over who sees it. I just post a video, a very simple.
You have control. You don't have to post it, and you don't have to let it go to the masses. You can post it to certain. You can make your channel private, can't you?
But I just made my argument that the reason why it's public is so that the non-hunting or non-falconry public
that
can be aware
an argument
of what it
the
is.
other way that those people that are seeing it are using your content as fuel.
What fuel?
Fuel to make their debate against, what are
they going to say? Look at this. Look at this hawk catching a rabbit. See how evil that is? Look at this. What kind of argument is that? They're going to say, okay, it's a hawk catching a rabbit. Don't millions of hawks catch rabbits every single day throughout the world? Okay, what's your argument?
But not aided with dogs and people. So you can make that argument the other way. So that's what I mean. Like, you can always come back.
But that's not a good argument, Phil. You're all about arguments and making good points. That's not a good point that somebody would try to make to somebody else. At the end of the day, the hawk is catching something. If a guy, and I witness it, I witness it at least once every 2 months or once every month and a half. The guy down over by the fire department in my town, he hays the field. He runs the machine. If you go there when he's running that machine, there's 4 to 5 red tails sitting on the poles watching that machine coming down one after the other and catching the mice and voles that are getting disturbed by him cutting it. Is he evil because he's helping those birds? If I filmed that guy in the combine or the machine cutting the hay and the red tails coming down and catching the mice and flying back up and eating them and then catching another mice, is that somehow an evil thing that person in that machine is assisting those birds of prey? Is that evil? There's no argument to be made there because it happens every day, and regardless, we're just actively doing it. We're actually helping. We're not passively helping. We're actually helping. So the argument's not really there. Anybody with a brain that heard an argument that said humans are assisting this bird catch something, that's like saying feeding ducks in the park is not right, which it's not right because you're not feeding them the correct diet. But if you're feeding them the correct diet in the park, then it would be totally beneficial. You're helping the population.
You see what
Don't
I'm?
feed-
That's my point. Right there is my point. You can always make an argument about who's right and what's better social justice than something else. So you can
Right.
always make an argument one way or
But
the other.
at least I get the chance to make the argument and not have to deal with it.
No, because I think
I'm ahead of it.
it's not. I don't think because I think it's like it's what's the word? It's a moot point. Like I think you're just arguing to argue, and I don't think that anybody's coming to a certain understanding or understand either way. So I don't think that the arguments are beneficial or convincing other people either way. You know,
I know what you're saying, but I don't necessarily engage with people that are ravenously arguing with me and are not. Some people will come at me extremely hard with some sort of a valid point, and I will give them the correct response. And then if they continue just going crazy, then you realize that this person, there's really no talking to this person, so I'm not going to engage with them.
So we listened to that Meat Eater podcast, right, Casey? You sent it to me, where his brother was like adamantly opposed to social media.
He just is mad. He's mad that people are hunting in his spots that he hunted in.
Yeah, and I totally disagree with that point. I disagree with that part of it. But
okay, explain.
Well, because I mean, you know, if you had more people into falconry, it would suck. It would suck for us.
Yes, it would.
It would suck for us. We know that because we live in a tight spot. But at the same time, we couldn't control that. And if people were practicing falconry at a high level, you know, then so be it. That's not our problem. But the question is what is a high level? Is what Casey decides is a high level? What someone else decides is a high level? What someone else decides is the proper way to, you know, conduct falconry? So that's where I think the argument is part of the argument is that you don't know who is, you know, what falconry is correct. And, you know, like Aaron said before about hunting park squirrels, some people might think it's perfectly fine to hunt park squirrels. You hunted park squirrels for a long time. I hunted park squirrels for a long time, you know, because that's what we had and that's what we were going to do. So, I mean, you know, some people out west would be like, what are you doing? You know, like that's pathetic. You're not a falconer. Right. So, I mean, where does those arguments? I think those are stupid arguments. I really do.
Of course, there's stupid arguments because.
So I think that's where the social media problem is like you get into these stupid arguments.
Right. But Phil, okay. So there's a joke in the lifting community that sumo deadlifts is not real deadlifts. So
what do you mean? I did 85 today. Don't tell me that.
Exactly. So if you did a traditional, I did like
35, but that's right.
Right. So if you did 35 sumo deadlifts, you could probably only do 12 traditional deadlifts. So there's going to be arguments no matter what you post. There's always going to be some sort of an argument no matter what it is.
Okay.
And those kind of details are not
convincing someone the other way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think those arguments are ever productive. And you're
they're not. They're not.
So then why get engaged in them? Why post?
I don't. If somebody's at a park catching squirrel, you're just because I post something doesn't mean I'm engaging in an argument. I'm just posting something, and if somebody wants to engage with a discussion or a dialogue, that's not my fault. If a kid who just learned how to deadlift 225 pounds and he posts it, but he's doing a sumo deadlift, people in the comments are going to say, "Oh, sumo deadlifts are fake. You're fake. That's not even a real deadlift."
But if you posted and your posts were private, then you would avoid those arguments.
But I'm not afraid of the argument, so who cares?
But it's not beneficial. So why do it? Because unfortunately,
arguing is very beneficial.
Arguing
we're really getting places right now.
That's what I tell my wife. When we arguing is healthy.
I agree. Argument is beneficial and discussion is beneficial. I totally agree.
But if you're I just turned you to my side without even trying.
No. But if both parties are there to listen to both sides,
correct.
If both sides are there to convince someone that they're stupid and they're wrong, then that's not really a beneficial argument.
Yeah, they get blocked. That's it.
Kind of like how we talk to Aaron, when we're not on filming,
Yeah, right. You guys just treat me like a simpleton.
I just spit my drink out.
If my camera was on, you would see tears coming down my face right now.
Why is your camera not working, by the way?
Turning it off helped
You make me very nervous. I don't know what you're doing over there.
Yeah. Don't even say it, Aaron. I know what you're going to say next. We're trying to keep it. We're trying to keep it.
Stop. My kids might listen to this.
We're trying to keep it PG. We have an
You West
inside joke.
Virginians. Oh, and see, I went to school there. I know what you guys are like.
I'll just
No, but
let
Phil,
you imagine what I'm doing.
Oh,
No.
God.
But
See,
Phil,
you just made it weird, Aaron. See, you had to make it weird.
leave it to Aaron to make it weird. But that's the whole point, right? We're having an open dialogue right here. So technically, aren't we having, are we opening ourselves up? We're having a discussion. We're getting things in the open. We're hashing things out. We're trying to come to some sort of conclusion.
That a couple comments on Instagram or things like that have that situation. Like, I'm willing to listen to what you're going to say, and you're willing to listen to what I'm going to say. And I don't think that the average conversation on social media is like that.
It is actually.
Maybe it is. I don't know. I can't speak because I'm not on it. But maybe I'm wrong.
No, I'm just saying the average conversation is somebody just is not sure what's going on, and they may, depending on the video, and they ask a question like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, why is the bird killing a rabbit?
Isn't Aaron a therapist? Shouldn't he be giving us therapy and giving social media therapy for everybody out there?
You'd have to charge us.
He
saves all the good info. He saves all the good info for his students.
Dr. Kincaid.
Yeah, I'm just letting you guys have at it.
No, but it's a great discussion to have. But I mean, you can't say that you're making an ultimatum. You're putting a line in the sand that there's no benefits to posting. And I just clearly laid out
what if I said
benefits.
that the negatives outweigh the positives? Is that better?
You'd have to quantify that into some sort of proof that it makes that like, because that's just like, you're not on social media, so how do you even know? So there's no argument.
So okay, let's take it back to old school. So I'm thinking that. Well, I guess that's not a good argument, because if I go back to like me doing the talks like back in the day, right, when people used to do talks and you used to go to your local Boy Scouts or whatever whatever group, and you did talks about falconry, which we all have done, that you should do as part of your, whatever. Everybody's done that pretty much. So you can make that argument that that's kind of the same way. I guess you can make that argument that way. So but I'm not sitting there talking about falconry is way different than me posting hunting and killing rabbits and all that kind of stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not trying to make apologies for it. I'm just saying that the average person doesn't need to see that when they're trying to look at cat videos and then they see a freaking hawk come up with, killing a squirrel. So I don't know. Again, maybe I'm wrong, but that's my argument.
Well, how many squirrels or birds did that cat kill that they were watching?
Oh, stop with the cats. Jesus Christ.
Filthy cats. No, it's just, you can make the argument for anything. YouTube content, giving a talk at a school, you're opening them up to go look up falconry and see it. And
right.
What have you done? You're not, you know what I mean? So you can make the argument for anything. You could say there's no feasible benefit to hunting park squirrels. End of discussion. There's no feasible benefit.
Right.
But I could come up with 5-6 benefits right off the top of my head that get your bird in shape. It's legal. Right. It's a kill. Sight picture. You could just keep going down the line. So to just put a line in the sand and say there's no benefits to it, there are benefits to it.
Okay.
So that's my opinion. But Aaron, you can take over here. I think I've swayed Phil's mind.
I totally agree with you. I'm going to get rid of my PETA membership.
Okay. I win. That was good. It was good talk, Phil, though. We've had these talks like a million times on the phone. So
I know. And there's no right answer. Like
I guess, you can look at it from any direction you want, and
correct.
So.
And a lot of times, I wish I was on social media, but I just don't. Again, I'm not going to repeat myself, but that's it.
Fair enough.
I think that park squirrels are lame, and you guys didn't change my opinion on that.
Dude, I'll take you to one park. You'll never catch a freaking squirrel in that park. They are not so easy as you think.
That's what I said. That was my argument, is that a squirrel that lives in a park is not immune to avian predators.
I will bring you to this park. You will not catch one squirrel there. They learn after 1 day or 2 days, you will not catch squirrel there. They learn my car. They would, as soon as you get that car, they hear the certain motor, whatever, the door, the bell, whatever it is, they are gone. You will never see them again. So,
in my opinion, it's all right. Phil, you nailed it. It's for me. It's what I want to do. You know, I don't enjoy it. So if that's what it takes to enter a bird and get them
Absolutely,
introduced
yes.
to it, but it's not for me. And
No, I totally get it. And but that's the argument, like on, kind of, not to go back to and start this all over again, but like you can always point a finger at somebody, right? Like, oh, look at that guy. He's got 5 dachshunds out there instead of, whatever. That's not fair for the rabbit, He's got whatever, you know what I mean? He's got 2 Harris Hawks out there. He's got a cast, whatever. You can always point a finger at something, and I don't think that's like, there's always something you can nitpick at somebody about, right? So, who's to say what's right and what's wrong? And so that's it, like, you do what you feel is sporty, and and that's it, and we'll do what we think is sporty, and that's it.
I think there's some real factors that come into sporting and not sporting.
Yeah, I think when I started, I wanted to kill the biggest thing with every bird I had. Right? You wanted to kill a pigeon with a kestrel. You wanted to kill a pheasant with a red tail, and blah blah blah. Right? You always want to do these crazy things. And it's like, now I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to. I want to be the opposite of that.
Yeah,
I will say if your only option is a park and you're able to do it without getting in trouble, then go for it.
Hell yeah. Put game in front of your bird. That's it.
Yeah. Well, there's been some good debates here, good points. I commend you both. I'm not great at arguing. I think that's why I'm a counselor. I can just agree with everything you say.
Yeah.
That's a nice place to be.
Yeah. Every now and then I can push back a little bit, but it's definitely not something I'm good at. But anyway, so I think we're probably good. We're at about 2.5 hours, I would assume.
It was a good episode. It was a really good episode.
Yeah, other than the technical difficulties.
Yeah, that's crazy. A lot of technical difficulties.
Phil, I think we just scraped the surface.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like I said, I didn't try to. I wanted to just have a conversation with you guys. I didn't plan anything, so I hope it was a good episode. I don't know if it was or not, but it was fun. I really enjoyed the podcast. I like what you guys are doing. I really look forward to the episodes, and I think they're fun and entertaining, and I really enjoy them.
We appreciate it, man. Thank you.
We really do appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. Keep up. I hope I contribute to that. I don't know if what we said was part of that, but that's what it is what it is.
No, it was good. It was really good. Yeah, we could have got into a whole bunch of technical stuff. Maybe we could do like a follow-up episode with you and Paul together and like talk about like finding nests, imprinting details, how you do it, how Paul does it.
Yeah, because
hacking.
we do have even though we're brothers, we do, kind of do things a little differently or see things a little differently. So that might be interesting.
Yeah, we could definitely do a follow-up. Maybe in person or something with when Aaron comes up and we're all together.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Make sure you follow New Jersey Falconry on Instagram.
I'll tell my wife to do that.
I'm gonna make a page for Phil without his knowledge, and just secretly post all his videos.
Oh, my students love to do that stuff. That's what they do to bully other kids. See, you're just a bully, typical bully. See, Aaron, he was bullied as a kid. Now he's bullied to other people. You see what it is?
That's how it goes.
Typical victim.
It's a vicious cycle.
I know, typical victim.
That's hilarious. That's good stuff. All right, I think that was good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a wrap.
We're 5-star reviews.
Please.
If you leave one and you screenshot it and you send it to us on social media, we will send you something in the mail. And make sure you follow, like, subscribe, all that stuff.
We appreciate it.
Why does he talk so slow? Why do you do that on purpose? Holy smokes. Jesus Christ, Aaron. From Jersey over here. Come on, talk a little faster.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It's a perfect contrast because I talk too fast and ramble, and Aaron's very like methodical with his
This
words.
is why I listen to you guys at 1.5 because Aaron's like at 1.5. Aaron's at normal speed.
What's Casey sound like a chipmunk when you do that?
Oh my God.
All right.
All right.
Good night, folks.
Good night.